Well, good morning and the very warmest of welcomes to you as you join us here in Prague, the capital of the Czech Republic, for a unique starting event in the world of marathon racing. The world's most popular mass participation sport takes a new step into the unknown this morning with the Battle of the Teams in this Czech capital. One of not only Europe's, but one of the world's most beautiful cities. My name's Tim Hutchings, and beside me, Michel Boting, are your commentators for this next 2.5 hours and more here from the glorious old square in the city centre. It is almost like a living museum, the centre of Prague. It's quite astonishing. There, the famous Charles Bridge, more of that shortly, and the sights of the city centre, the various cathedrals. It's known as the City of 100 Spires, and you can see why exactly. There's the Powder Tower, as it's called. That is the Metronome high on a hill overlooking the city. A marvellous, majestic view of the city from that particular point above the river Vltava. And the city of about 1.5 million, something like that, is of course the #1 Czech city in size, but it is one of Europe's biggest tourist attractions. There's no doubt about that. Tens of millions flocks to this city each year in normal times, and there's plenty of wildlife around as well. Michel, looking forward to this Battle of the Teams format this morning, which, for those of you who have not been following the build-up to this on social media, just very quickly, let me lay it out for you. There are 4 teams running of elite athletes. There's no mass participation race, by the way. 4 teams running, 8 athletes in each team, so 32. There are 6 of the 8 will score. And then 2 of the runners who will run the entire race are called bench runners, in other words, reserves. So if one of the 6 drops out, then one of the bench runners steps in to replace them. And each team has 4 men and 4 women. Their finishing times are converted to points to give the team an eventual finishing score. And the unique thing about this is that the 6th scorer, the last scorer for each team, can actually win it for their team, of course, if they have a good run. And if people get a personal best, then they get a 10% point bonus for their team. I mean, this is a brilliant idea, Michel, dreamed up by Carlos Capalbo, the head of RunCzech, who organised these marvellous running events in Prague. What's your thinking of it? Because the world of marathon running is strong and secure. You get 55,000 in New York, 45,000 in London. It's a safe, strong sport already.
Yeah, and it has been I would say that it's been, sorry. We didn't really innovate in the marathon. It's been the same for all those years. And actually, the pandemic made people a bit creative. We have seen marathons in airports. We have seen marathons in parks on closed loops. And yeah, Carlo had to do something. You know, all these organizers, they're struggling. They have normally events, they have income, they have people working for them the whole year. They have sponsors that they have to keep happy. So Carlo and his team came up with something that pulled really the sponsors in, because the teams are named after their sponsor. And yeah, it also connects all the runners, which normally it doesn't.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, you make a very good point that it is the pandemic and the way that the sport has been suppressed in terms of mass participation not being possible for many, many years. That has inspired this as we get a quick tour of the course here now. It's a 3-kilometre loop. But basically, they have about 3 kilometres run into the loop, and this is the bit they only cover once. But once they've done this first 3 kilometres, here they cross south into the city. Then they get onto a quadrangular loop, which is run in an anti-clockwise direction. And they do that 13 times, this square. You watch, they go over the river again there, left along that north bank, past the Parliament buildings, and then that is the rectangle they conclude 13 times to make up the 42 kilometres. So it's a little bit under 2 miles, if you want it in Old English terms. It's about 2.98 kilometres. It's almost exactly 3 kilometres. They tried desperately to make it 3K. But yeah, I was saying, Michel, it's the pandemic that has forced Carlo into this type of thinking. But actually, I think it has a life way beyond the pandemic. When normal running returns, this is still a very valid concept. It
initially started us thinking together with Carlo, what can we do to bring running back? Because especially the elite sport has suffered. As an elite sport, we were like non-existent. And so we came up with this idea, and when we were brainstorming over and over it, we have to let's elaborate on that.
So
further.
the teams here, the start is right in the middle of the Charles Bridge, by the way, that famous, fabulous old bridge, the Charles Bridge, with its 16 arches. This is the team from Mattoni. 8 athletes, 6 of them, remember, are scorers, and they will jog about 150 meters down towards the middle of the bridge. And Team Mattoni, well, they can boast Lencho Anbesa. He's a 2:06 performer, an Ethiopian. Kinde Atanor, another Ethiopian, 2:03 his personal best. Abel Kipchumba, a 2:09 performer for that squad. I'll fill you in on the rest of their team as well. But this is where these Kenyan and Ethiopian athletes and some Czechs as well, there's a Czech man and Czech woman in every team, have been asked to pose, and that's not necessarily always in the nature of the Kenyan and Ethiopian athletes.
Yeah, well, we see Petra Kvitova. She's preparing for Roland Garros, but she's the team captain here for Team Mattoni.
Yeah, they have selected a celebrity Czech sports person to be the team captain of a symbolic captain of every team. But Kvitova, twice a Wimbledon champion, the bronze medalist in the Rio Olympic Games. Here comes, I think this should be Team Volkswagen, second out, and Yitayal Atnafu is a 2:06 performer, another Ethiopian for them, running his 13th marathon today. Dickson Chumba, one of the most experienced here, a 2:04 performer back in 2014. Chumba, the Kenyan, and Mengistu Zelalem is the best of the men in that squad. Diana Kipyokei, a 2:22 Kenyan, is in this team. Purity Rionoripo, a 2:20 performer as well. And the reserve runner for this team is Worknesh Mola, 2:24, the reserve female for that squad. The locals, the Czechs in that team, Vít Pavlišta, who's a 2:15 guy, and Lilia Fisikovici, who's a 2:27 performer. And there's a familiar face.
Yeah, Susanna Heinova, we've seen her on the track. She doesn't have so much with marathon, but now she's a team captain. She's really into it, really enthusiastic during the draft. We had a draft where the teams were selected, and she's confident she can win with this team.
She is twice world champion at 400-meter hurdles, of course, an absolute superstar here in the Czech Republic. The third team coming down the course at us is Team Birel. These are all corporate sponsors who have built this partnership with the Prague Marathon. And the main men in the Birel team, Samuel Wanjiku, a 2:06 performer. Benson Kipruto, 2:05. He is many people's favourite. Kenneth Keita, a 2:07 performer. And then on the women's side, Berke Biene, 2:23. She ran in Toronto in 2019. Guteni Shona, 2:20 performer in Dubai just in January last year. And Meseret Belete, a 2:24 performer. And the two Czechs in that Birel team, Moira Stuartova and Willy Kanchania. Moira Stuartova is a 25-year-old Czech, but her dad is Scottish, hence the somewhat weird, slightly Scottish-sounding Czech name, and that's their team captain, Yitayal.
Yeah, he's a Paralympic champion, multiple Paralympic champion on bicycle. Lost his leg as a child, and he really thinks in team. He comes from cycling background. He really thinks in team terms, and yeah, during the draft also very confident he picked the right ones.
And last but not least, it's Team Skupina Čes. That's a big group of companies here in the Czech Republic, and they have Bedatu Herpa, a 2:21 performing female from Ethiopia. Rutiaga, 2:18. She ran in Berlin in September 2018. Another Ethiopian female. And Aberu Mulisa is a 2:28 performer. She's their bench runner or reserve runner in that Team Skupina Čes. And their men, well, Thomas Kipligat has run 2:06, and Norbert Keegan 2:05, and their reserve, Abdi Ibrahim of Qatar, has run 2:08. So really high caliber athletes here, Michel. I mean, I think as we see their team captain, Katarina Neumanova, a former cross-country skier and 6-time Olympic medalist, they have done incredibly well to pull in such strong teams here.
Yeah, of course, Prague was lucky that there were many athletes that wanted to run, many high-quality athletes that wanted to run, but there could have even been better athletes. But what was needed was a diverse team, was men, women, and also equal teams, so we get an equal competition. And so I think the draft was organized well, and teams look balanced.
Yeah, there was a draft process on Czech TV last week, just a few days ago, which saw the teams being selected by the team captains and to try and balance out the teams to make them very even. As you can see, it is a beautiful, gorgeous, late May morning in the Czech capital. We're just seconds away from the starting gun on the Charles Bridge over the Vltava River. This bridge was started in 1357. It's 500 meters long, has 16 arches. It's only pedestrianised, by the way. There's never any traffic on it. It has 30 statues in its Baroque style of Catholic saints. So these athletes getting ready under starters' orders now. Peruvian running in this race as well, more of him shortly. So they will run down off the bridge, and then they won't see this bridge again because they'll head out crossing the river 2 more times before actually getting onto the loop in the old city that they circumnavigate 13 times in total. Men and women starting together, mixed teams. Remember, 8 athletes per team, 6 of whom are designated scorers, with 2 running as reserves. And then if a woman from the 6 drops out, then the reserve female becomes a scorer. And if a man drops out from the 6 scorers, then the male reserve becomes a scorer. It's well thought out. And I think, Michel, this is a revolutionary day for the world of marathon racing. It makes the race more interesting. And of course, what we're going to see on the screen are the scores throughout the race. Live updated. The times that they go through 10k and 20k in at any point are translated into points, and we will see those scores all the time updating.
Yeah, and as I said, the whole idea came because, I mean, if there was no pandemic, there would be a normal Prague Marathon, I think. But during the thought process, there's so many angles that can be generated through this format that, yeah, this could be the future of marathon. I'm not saying the whole of marathon, but we could have a few of these team races, and if companies get interested to get their teams, it could revolutionize the sport I would say. And
so I've already described the city as almost a living museum. It is so gorgeous. It really is. Just strolling around it, you walk around aghast with your mouth open at the beauty of the architecture. It really was relatively undamaged by the Second World War and is a real gem right in the centre of Europe, the medieval heart of Europe. A lot of the course, by the way, is on cobbles, and there are places where the athletes have to negotiate the cobbles. They're actually quite good quality cobbles, with some I've seen in London, but they will negotiate that. And of course, well, you haven't mentioned, Michel,
yes,
there are about 60
I just wanted
athletes.
to say, yeah, there's in conjunction with this Battle of the Teams, they also organize the National Czech Marathon Championship. So there's around the 60 athletes that are added to the field, and well, the teams decided to start slow, so we see some. One of the Czech runners, 124, is part of the national championships, and yeah, we will see them.
There's a small number of the Czech men and women who are hoping to get the Olympic qualifying times,
yeah,
aren't they? Just literally a couple.
Yeah, Yuri Homolac, he will try. He tried in Siena in April, didn't make it. He's quite new to the marathon and still has hope to beat that 2:11:30 standard that is there for men.
That is special. The Vltava River looking quite majestic, serene in the early morning sun. There's a few islands tucked along the middle of the river. I had a jog around one of them 2 or 3 days ago. Haven't jogged since, mind you, but it was really rather special to do laps of this island that was about 2 kilometers round. I won't tell you how many laps I did. It wasn't a lot.
Well, I didn't run at all, Tim. So.
And I wasn't going as fast as these fellas. We are expecting the race to build up in tempo, Michel. Now, there are no pacemakers, which makes it different to the majority of big city marathons.
Adding pacemakers, and yet you have a team event and teams battling, that wouldn't be fair. So I decided there's no pacemakers, but organizer, of course, hopes that there's still going to be some quick times, and we have some intermediate sprints, that we call it. So the leader of the race, after around 15k, will get a bonus.
Michel, we saw the conditions just then. Yeah. Hardly any humidity, temperature perfect, wind. I mean, people have said actually that Carlo Capalbo has a pact with somebody up top because the weather for his races is just about always perfect.
And starting early helps as well. of course, where they're still quiet. We walked to the finish line, and it was beautiful.
Oh,
yeah,
it's stunning. So just to let you fill you in on that course, they run along the north bank of the Vltava River behind the government buildings. That's what they're doing now. They've come down off the Charles Bridge, run a few hundred meters alongside the river, and they've gone back over the river, so they're on the north bank in effect now. And they've turned right, and then they will cross the bridge again, turn around and go across the river again, and then head back onto the main loop. So this is ground that they will cover just the one time. This is not part of the main loop. And I get the feeling, now they've been running for what, 4 minutes, Michel, that actually the pace has cranked up a little bit already after the first couple of minutes.
Leading now is Dickson Chumba. He's from the RunCzech group. Carlo already had a team before he thought of Battle of the Teams. He has this developmental team. It's called RunCzech, together with the management team Kipyokei and Adidas, where they try to develop new stars for his own races. Because besides the Prague Marathon, RunCzech has many more races. Abel runs with number 7. That means he's one of the bench runners.
Yes, let's explain those shield bibs to you. The athletes in the Battle of the Teams are wearing those shield bibs on the front. The Czech Championship runners will just wear a normal rectangular runner. And of course, if you're in, for example, the team Mattoni, there are 8 of you, so your numbers are green with numbers 1 to 8 on. And then if you're in the Volkswagen team, for example, there are 1 to 8 with the blue background. So you will see several runners with shields on with the number 1 or the number 2, for example. But actually the colour of the bib is also a clue as to which team they're in, a pretty good clue. And that pack is, what, about 15 strong and moving away pretty early. And we expected this, Michel, I think, because if you think that there are athletes in this field that have run 2:03, 2:04, 2:05, even after 2 or 3 kilometers, you're going to see gaps developing on guys who have run 2:10, 2:12.
Yeah, definitely that will be the case. But of course, first they will look at each other like who's going to take the pace. This week, Carlo tried to talk some team tactics into the teams, like, guys, talk together, see what you can do. I don't think that really helped. It's all new to the athletes. Athletes are not so used to teams yet. Normally they think in terms of running for the same sponsor or for the same manager or training groups. And now suddenly they had to change their mind. And yesterday the teams met again, and you saw some spirit coming, and they felt proud of being part of a certain team.
To the right of the picture there, wearing a 3 is Thomas Kiplagat, and that's running for the team Skupina Čes. His personal best is 2:06. That was when he won the Seoul Marathon back in early 2019. These athletes are avoiding the tram lines. We saw a couple of trams back there parked up on the course, and that's an indication of the glory of the city's transport network, the public transport network. Actually had a chat over a couple of drinks the other night with the head of the transport network, public transport network here in Prague. And I was astonished at how cheap it is to take public transport around the Czech capital. It's fabulously cheap. I mean, almost free. That's how cheap it is. Compared with London, it is probably 5% of what you pay in London to get a tube journey. I was kind of embarrassed, actually. Yeah. But no public transport on this morning. The roads are closed for this event early on a Sunday morning. It is, remember, only just coming up to 6:40 local time in the Czech Republic. 7 minutes on the clock, and the gap between this group of about 15 and the rest, Michel, is opening all the time. So they are moving fast. Yeah,
of course, we do have 16 elite runners male, 16 elite runners man. So I think all men are still together. Second group will be formed with women and some local runners. But the nice thing, Tim, about this concept is that it's so important to wait for the final runner to cross the line. Normally, we have this hype for the leaders of the race, and then it dies off, you know. And now the last runner, with running a personal best by 1 second, could be bringing the most points for the whole team.
That is the genius of it, isn't it? That as Michel says, you know, when the winners cross the line, actually it's only just beginning the excitement, because the third, fourth, fifth, sixth scorers for each team can affect the team race dramatically. I love that concept. I think it's got huge potential. We're looking at the leading women's pack at the moment. Slightly hard to see their numbers, although I think that's a green 6.
It's Aiyabei who's
I think
leading.
That's Valary Aiyabei. Yeah, you're right.
And she knows Prague very well. She won Prague Marathon in 2017. She's a kind of an aggressive runner. She likes to take a race on. Sometimes pays for it, like in London last year when she followed Bridget Koskei, very aggressive, higher pace than her personal best, and faded to 10th position. But it has brought us success as well.
Aiyabei will be pleased, actually. I wonder if she's got a little bit more adrenaline pumping through her system, because she's a big Chelsea fan, and after a certain football match last night, she will be on a high, that's for sure. She's a 2:19 performer, by the way, so, you know, don't think that these athletes have turned up because they had other choices. We've got fabulous quality of athletes here. Number 7 to the right of the picture there in that men's group, as we go back to the women's, is Kipyokei Chumba. Was 4th in the Prague Half Marathon here a couple of years back. And number 6 there is Aiyabei in the green bib. 4 to the right there in the blue for Team Volkswagen is Diana Kipyokei. She's a 2:22 performer. Did that when she won Istanbul just last December, so only 6 months ago. And recent good form is always a confidence giver, isn't it?
It's automatic. They go to the bottles, yet they've just run 3 kilometers.
Well, what do they say? What's the old adage in marathon running? If you feel thirsty during a marathon, it's too late.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's maybe a bit early for the bottles. They passed there 14 times. Every team has its own drinking station. They're on both sides of the road.
So they are now on the main lap.
Yeah,
that they will negotiate 13 times.
Paris Avenue, I think we would call it. I think they call it Pariska.
They do. They call it Pariska something or other. And it's Michel and I walked along this yesterday, and it is just one designer shop after another. Nearly all Italian, of course. No, hardly anybody shopping, was there? I mean, they're probably we had the entire street to ourselves virtually.
And you see, we get the first splits, and we can make the first score. That's all based on projected times. We see Team Mattoni is leading.
But it is close. Look at that, 6-7, and then the next 3 are in the 6-6 territory.
Yeah, of course. I think there's maybe Team Mattoni has some people on personal best already. Although it's slow. I think the man started slow. And
I mean, that's a very good point, that if athletes start very fast and optimistically and are running at a tempo that projects a personal best for them, and as Michel said, those scores are on their projected times from the splits that are coming through, you can get a massive skewing if 2 or 3 runners from one team are on faster than personal best tempo.
So I think we shouldn't focus too much on this in maybe the first 30 minutes.
Early on, I
yeah.
think you're right. I think you're right.
But yeah, later on we will see changes, and then maybe when somebody drops out and suddenly you have to activate the bench runner. It's going to be exciting. We've spoken about points, but we didn't really explain where the points come from, and we don't want to make it too complicated, but maybe a little background. There is a World Athletics table where performances of all events that we have in track and field and road racing.
That's discus, javelin, long jump,
can be
400
can be converted to points, and actually those points are used for world rankings. So Carlo and his team thought, why don't we use it for a team effort, so that we can compare female and male performances, and they can actually perform in the same competition. So it just doesn't connect the leader with maybe the last one in the race, but also the male performance with the male runners with the female runners.
It's like a golf handicap system in effect.
And actually, you could have female-only teams or male-only teams, and they compete together. They compete against each other.
No, it is a brilliant concept, and I've yet to find any real weak point in it, any Achilles heel in the thinking that has gone into it. And I know that the RunCzech team has spent many weeks, months, thinking about it from all perspectives, various permutations, and it's rock solid. There is Eva Vrabcová Nývltová, who's a 35-year-old Czech. She's a 2:26 performer, former world-class cross-country skier. She's up there with that lead women's pack. I don't know how long she'll stay there.
Well,
she's a 2:26 performer. Some of them run 8 minutes quicker than her.
True that, but she's a good runner. She did it in a championship. She did it during the European Championship. Actually, so it was not like a paced race. Back from maternity leave, for some women that they come back much stronger. So this is also her chance to run the Olympic qualifier. She doesn't have that yet because after 2018 she took a break to become a mother. She has a 13-month-old daughter that is walking like a queen through the hotel already.
Well, she also has her dog with her, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, beautiful big dog.
Beautiful white dog called Bello that gate crashed our press conference a couple of days ago. It was hilarious. The athletes were all lined up for the photographers, and the dog just walked out to the middle of this line of athletes and sat down facing the cameras like it had been trained to do so. It was extraordinary.
Yeah, she brought the whole family.
Yeah.
And enjoying it, and happy to be back in international running. Yet we see one of the Kenyans, Sami Wanjiku, already dropping. He's a 2:06 performer.
By the way, you can see there, for example, number 3 on the left of picture. That is Thomas Kipligat wearing an orange sleeve. So the athletes were given arm sleeves to wear with the colour of their team. Obviously, Team Mattoni are green, Team Volkswagen are blue, Team Birel are red, and Team Skupina Czech are orange. So, for example, on the right of picture there, forget about the singlets, forget about the vests. It's the bib itself and the arm sleeves that give the indication of the team.
Yeah, of course, this is a new concept, and the market and the world is not set for it yet. So, yeah, athletes have their individual sponsor agreements, and we have to respect those. But the future might be different. We got a lot of cooperation from the shoe companies. I have to say that. But the sleeves, gives a little bit of indication for us as the commentators, but also for the viewers back home to know which team, which the athlete runs for.
So the athletes are negotiating this quadrangle and are still on it, but now they've left the old city, headed slightly north in effect over the river, take a left. We'll run along this northern bank of the quadrangle and then take another left back over a bridge and onto Paris Street again. It's almost, as I said earlier, it's almost exactly 3 kilometers the loop, and fortunately if they were on 2:06 tempo they'd be running 2:59 per kilometer. So if they're covering each lap, Michel, in 9 minutes, give or take a couple of seconds, we know they're on 2:06 tempo. So it is a very useful sort of gauge, useful distance. If they were on 2 hours 10 tempo, they'd be on 3:05 per kilometre, for example, so negotiating the circuit in around 9:15. So that's really convenient. They're still on that first big circuit, though.
Yeah, they got back out of town, though. Crossed the bridge, crossed the river again. So they'll soon start their second lap. And Team Birel already losing one of their top dogs.
When you and I walked along this section yesterday, Michel, at this stage we were walking to quite a strong wind, but it seems there's no wind today, because look, they're spread 5 across the road.
It seems the hill on the right to them is blocking the wind for them. And they'll get it a little bit in the back when they come back into town. But this morning we didn't feel wind at all. It was
no. It is the most perfect morning for marathon racing. I mean, you and I have both seen a few marathons over the last 20, 30 years. This is as good as it gets. It really is. There's a very slight rise now up towards this bridge before they take the left. But standings at 5K.
That's 2 hours 10 pace.
Yeah, it's because they did start slow, didn't they? The first 4 or 5 minutes were really reluctant, I suppose you could say. But that's not a fair reflection on how fast they're going now.
And of course, the city of Prague will be so happy with these images traveling the world, and finally people walking or running the city again. As we were at the press conference and we heard the manager of the Hilton Hotel, he said, normally now May, June, I have 90% capacity filled.
And he's got
10%.
8%, I think I heard.
So Prague is heavily hit by the pandemic, and of course, it's an economic disaster. And one of the reasons Carlo got the authorization to bring even people from red-labeled countries with all the protocols in place is because Prague wanted this marathon.
Absolutely, absolutely. You've got to admire their ambition to take this on as the pandemic is gradually, very gradually being depressed around Europe, and we're winning that particular battle internationally. The Hilton Hotel, by the way, that Michel mentioned is about a kilometre off the course at one point, so if athletes feel they're having a bad day, they can just not take a left-hand turn and keep going on the far corner from where they are now. They'd be back in the hotel in about 3 minutes. It's like at the London Marathon, the hotel the athletes used to stay in was at the halfway point, and if you knew you were having a bad day, you just turned right, jogged down some steps and into your bedroom and hide.
Yeah, 29k, that's where it went wrong.
Now, there is they've just gone past a little square where I was looking last night. There was a sculpture made of metal called King Kong Bulls, and it is what it sounds like. It's a massive metal King Kong ape lying on its side with monstrous brass you-know-whats. It is absolutely hilarious. Google, or there are other providers available, but try and find King Kong Bulls
and you went there
Prague, and you will laugh your head off.
And you went there last night too?
No, I didn't. No, I plan to go there later on. There's the standings at 5 kilometres in the women's race. Valary Aiyabei in the lead. And again, their times don't reflect really what they are likely to end up with for those first few kilometres, because they did start relatively slowly. Here they come across the bridge, heading back onto, well, they are on the loop, of course, now. And there is one timing mat at the 3K point that they passed, which they will cross in about 200 metres. And that is where officially we are saying each lap starts, even though they've been on the lap for a little while. But that pack looks to be moving well. This slightly downhill, this strip, isn't it? Yeah. We found yesterday onto Paris,
well, very
Paris
smooth.
Avenue or Paris Street.
Not hurting downhill, although the course could be demanding with the cobblestones and the small downhills that they have, and maybe hurt your quads a bit like Boston course or the New York course would do.
Number 4 there for the Team Burrell team in red is Berka Bayenne. There is Eva Vrabcová, wearing number 1 for the Team Mattoni squad. This is her 6th marathon, by the way. She's very experienced. She was 26th in Rio at the Olympic Games 5 years ago, ran 2:33 there. Her debut was a 6th place here in earlier on that year, where she ran a 2:30. So she's got plenty of experience, Vrabcová, even though her personal best for the half marathon and national record is only just outside 71 minutes. But she's tucked in with this pack and may get dragged to a special time here today. It's a tough decision, isn't it? Because if she were to drop back off this pace, Michel, she might be all on her own. Yeah,
but actually I think this pace suits her. I think this is okay for her. The only thing is, what will happen if you get surges? Of course, we get at the 15K, we get this intermediate prize money. There's $2,000 for, but they won't get the money for the first one because they're too slow.
Well, that's probably true. That's true. Yeah, Michel was alluding to the preems, like in cycling, or bonus incentive points that athletes have been offered after 4 laps. There's $2,000 per gender for the leading woman through that's a certain point if they are on a certain tempo, and for the men it needs to be at 2:06 or quicker, and for the women 2:21 tempo or quicker. And as Michel says quite rightly, they're probably going to miss that one already because they've started off. But after 9 laps is the next one, where there's $1,000 per gender.
Yeah, and then there is no time requirement.
No, exactly. But there's the old square, the old town square in Prague. Absolutely fantastic, isn't it? They take that wide left sweep. We sat in one of those little bars down there yesterday and had you had a Coke. I think I had something a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
So it was rather special, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Without the hordes of tourists who were the privileged.
Yeah. Normally I think you had to wait to get a table, and now they were almost begging us to come and take one.
They pay us to sit down?
Yeah, they pay us to sit down. No, it's a nice experience to be in Prague with few people. On the other hand, Prague deserves more and deserves to be full of people every day of the week, especially in this beautiful weather.
So to the left there in the main square, that's the Jan Hus Memorial, built in 1915. He was a religious reformer who was burnt at the stake. So he has a massive memorial in one of Europe's most beautiful cities after his name to remember him. I think I'd prefer to not be burnt at the stake and not have a memorial myself, but Jan Hus probably didn't have a lot of choice, poor fella.
Oh, Dickson Chumba got bored, took the lead. We now setting the pace for this first group.
Isn't it fascinating, Michel, that they are beginning to churn along, and we'll find out more when we get to 10k and 20k and 30k what space they're moving at. But without pacemakers, I get the impression they're actually going pretty well here.
Yeah, I mean, any pace under 2:10 is an honest pace, no? And it's just, yeah, there's so much quality in this group that they could go faster, but yeah, we're a bit spoiled, eh? Every time the organizer sets a pace together with the leading athlete, and the pacemakers puts the pace and the athletes will follow. Yeah, this is another concept. We leave it up to the athletes.
Well, they're heading north now over the Stefanikov Bridge and the top right-hand corner of the lap, and there you can see that Team Skupina Czech are in the lead by 1 point. It's really finely balanced at the moment. Now, the athletes won't be privileged to that information. You can see top left of screen, they're on the second of 13 laps. But in the team race, and those scores, just to reiterate once again for you, are worked out according to the pace the athletes are moving at and their projected finishing times, and the times that they would finish in if they kept going at this tempo are converted into points. It's a very simple conversion. Well, I say simple conversion, somebody's done some masterful programming behind the scenes to make it happen simultaneously. Yeah. Really fabulous work.
So we have Benson Kipruto, who took over from...
no, that's Norbert Keegan, isn't it? That's an orange number.
So, no, that's...
No,
oh, that's
orange.
Oh, sorry, orange.
That's orange,
yes,
not red.
Sorry.
So that's
Norbert Keegan. Yeah, Norbert Keegan.
We knew that would confuse. We knew that would confuse a little bit the orange.
Anyway, I spoke with Norbert yesterday, so I should have recognized him. 2:05 runner, and he's an interesting case, Tim, because he ran his 2:05 in
Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam in 2017, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
And 2018, 2019, he got injury. He had a hip injury. He didn't run a lot. That's why you couldn't.
He's dropped out of 2 of his last 3 marathons.
So that's why you couldn't find any results from him. He said everything is okay now. And why is it interesting? He ran his 2:05 on a non-carbon shoe because he was with.
You had to mention it.
Well, he's an Adidas athlete, and, but he got a pair on his feet now.
Oh, so, I see what you're saying.
I mean, that's why he's interesting, and that's why I also put him as like a personal best alert. He could improve himself and get his bonus points.
In case you've just got back from Mars, Michel's reference to the carbon shoe there's a generation of shoes which have been around for 2, 3, 4, even 5 years, depending on which conspiracy theory you adhere to. Generation of shoes which are being produced by all the big shoe companies now, which have carbon rods inside them, which essentially, without going into all the technical detail, enable athletes to run faster. There's no argument about it. Some people think they make 2 minutes difference over a marathon. Some people think they make 4 or 5 minutes difference. I'm sort of in between those two marks, but actually that is a huge mark, and of course one particular company named their shoe the 4% because they very brazenly said this could give you a 4% improvement in performance, and that is massive.
Yeah. Well, the controversy was, of course, there was no rules around it, and that one is fixed now. There's rules around it, so shoe companies know the margin that they have with their shoe and what they can put into that sole, and more and more brands have a proper shoe now. So, but yeah, we will get used to fast times. And
I think most people are accepting of it now, Michel, because everybody's got access to the shoes.
Well, we have to accept it because there's no going back.
No, and as long as you're happy to spend $200 or $300, you're in the fight. So that pack is still pretty strong. Number 3 there, running for the Team Mattoni is Lencho Anbessa. Only done 3 marathons. He's got no track pedigree at all. My notes say perhaps due for a breakthrough. He has run 2:06. That was in Dubai in January last year. It was his only race in 2020. And there is Jiří Homolaj, a 2:14 performer for the Czech Republic. He's actually been training in E10 in Kenya, going to learn from the best and take advantage of their conditions. And he's very experienced, Homolaj. He's run 16 marathons, hoping upon hope here to run a sub-2 11:30 and get that Olympic qualifying time. 3-minute improvement, but in perfect conditions on a fast course with the shoes, who knows?
Well, at least he let the group go when they went faster, which is clever.
The women's pack, of course, is gradually losing ground on the men's, but every one of them is scoring along with their male colleagues for their team. And as you can see, still really tight in that team race. Team Mattoni 6.945 to Skupina Čes 6.775. Well, it's changing all the time, and as you will watch, those colours and those team scores on the top left of the screen shifting around as the athletes go through certain kilometre points, and their times change into points, and those point scores, those points totals change simultaneously. At the moment, Volkswagen down in 4th place, but it's very, very early days. Just coming up to half an hour on the clock. Michel, one thing that I'm interested in, I was doing my prep through the night last night, and a lot of athletes no longer do half marathons to prepare for a marathon. In the old days, and I've been up to about 10 years ago, nearly all marathon runners would do a half marathon 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks before a marathon. Now that doesn't happen. Why is that?
I think there's a few things to it. Half marathon has become like a specialty in itself. I mean, especially if you look at the men's, where they're running 57, 58 now, and none of them is a marathoner. They're all people that come from the 10,000.
That doesn't explain why physiologically it wouldn't help to go out and do a 60 or a 61.
So it becomes a specialty in itself. Now, where Lisbon half marathon, for example, was very happy to bring all the people that were going to run in the London Marathon a month later, like a marketing gimmick. Now all races, they want the fast times, they want the top stars in the half marathon. And why would you spend money on a marathoner that comes to run 60:30 or 61, which is still a good time and very good for preparation?
You're saying it's not good enough.
No, it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
Plus, incredible.
Plus,
look at that. The athletes veering right across the road there to get their drinks. They hadn't thought about it. So that's cost them quite a bit of ground.
So then a marathoner also thinks, okay, why would, and we know most marathoners come from Africa, the good ones. Why would they travel all the way to Europe to make no money, to be number 15 in a race? And they say, why, I better do a race in Kenya, or I do a hard training session in Kenya. And
by the way, 9.9 kilometers came up just now, so they're coming up to 10 kilometers and 31 minutes on the clock. So the women going through 10K, Michel, in about 31:30, 31:33, something like that.
No, it will be slower because they had I think that's the men's that are on. I don't think that's right, because the women passed 8.9K in 30:47.
Oh, yeah, well that would put the men on 2:13 pace. Yeah, no, you're right. Sorry. Maybe
no, I think the women they have increased the pace a little bit.
Yes, that's right. That is the leaders. That very top left blue marker. 3 laps of 13. They're on the 3rd lap. That 10.1K is for the leading men. But if that is the case, it's on the slow side, Michel. 31.5 minutes.
Yeah, let's see. I opened the sheet where we get the splits. It was, they'll be on 31 minutes. Just off. But then the second 5K was better, because the first 5K was slow, was 15:50. If the second 5K is under 15:10, then that would be
the projected times will start coming down. Yeah.
So you see the point. You see the points going up, so they go faster, Tim.
Yes. Number 5, Keegan, actually doing the pushing at the moment, the leading, and we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I think 13 in that pack. So they are still moving well. And athletes will begin to drop away, I'm sure. And just looking at second place there, wearing number 5, is Yitayal Atnafu, 2:03 performer. He's actually the fastest in the field, is Atnafu. He ran that in Valencia in December 2019. He was the winner there, but he didn't finish Valencia last December. He dropped out. He is relatively inexperienced too. He's tucked right in there in second place behind Keegan. He's only run 3 times a half marathon. And this is only his 3rd marathon. Big Arsenal fan, by the way, so he won't be delighted with the way his football team have gone this last few months.
And to explain a little bit of the score, why Team Volkswagen is 4th at the moment is because they have no one who's on a projected personal best. And yet in Team Mattoni they have 1 in they have 2 in Team Chess. So that's what we have to also follow.
Yeah, those personal best bonuses of 10% was an area of slight controversy, wasn't it? Initially, when the rules were discussed a few weeks back,
it was even more.
I think it was a 50% bonus, and then it was pointed out that that would massively skew the results. So it was brought down to 10%. And actually, there's still perhaps an argument that that's too generous.
Well, and of course, afterwards, everything will be evaluated and see was it right or was it wrong. And we didn't finish that part on the points earlier. If you look, the whole sport actually moves within 200 points. Because a 219 for a man, 219.50 is 1,000 points. And 200 points further is 2.7.
Okay, so really small margin.
So it's small margin. It's like 6 to 7 seconds. In a man it's 3.5 seconds. It's like 1 point. In the women it's 6 seconds, 6 to 7 seconds. So yeah, a 10% bonus for personal best is a lot, because 1,100 points could outscore a 2.6 runner.
So there's a nice rhythm, isn't there, that they're settling into now. Bouncing along at the front and looking very comfortable is Keegan. You do wonder sometimes, in a race like this, competitive race like this, what is the advantage to being at the front, pushing the pace along so early on with 36 minutes on the clock? They've got probably 90 minutes of running to come, but he's beginning to stretch here, isn't he? He's turning the screw a bit.
Some athletes are not very comfortable with this fartlek running. Some athletes just like even pace, and some they like this fartlek. Ethiopians love it. They love this change of pace.
Races.
Yeah, it seems they handle it better. Kenyans, they like it more in even pace and not like erratic surges and then slow down again.
Just to explain the word fartlek for those of you unaware of it, it's I think it's a Finnish word which means speed play.
Yeah, something like that.
Almost exactly that translation, and essentially it's what mostly top athletes or good athletes incorporate into their training, where you go out for a run and after maybe 10 minutes of warming up, you run a nice steady 10 minutes, you actually put in big surges. They can be 1 minute surges, they can be 10 minute surges, and then you ease up and you jog a bit of recovery and then you do it again, and you may incorporate 3 in a run, you may incorporate 23 in a run. It's supposed to be an informal way of doing interval training, and of course that is the best way of developing a level of fitness. It's what all middle and long distance training is based upon, intervals, stressing the system and then relaxing it and stressing it again.
It's interesting. This Willy Cancanya from Peru, he's still in the leading group. He's in terms of his personal best, he's not one of the stars of this field. He has 2:12.57, but if you look at the marathons he ran, they're all difficult ones. It's not okay. He ran in Berlin. He ran in the end. He ran his personal best in Berlin, but he ran 2:13 in Lima, for example.
Yeah, which is high altitude.
No, Lima is not high altitude, but it's hot. Lima is at sea level.
Lima is altitude.
No, Lima is sea level.
No, it's not.
It is.
I'll put money on it.
Okay. But he's
in Peru. You think is at sea level?
Yeah, Lima is
okay.
At sea level. But
we won't mention money.
It's the capital city.
I know. My school used to have a
I've been there, Tim. But he's.
You sure it was the Lima?
He's born at 3,500 meter altitude and
3,900 altitude.
3,900.
And that's 13,000 feet.
Yeah, and it's actually strange that Peru doesn't have more runners, because if you go there, it's like Kenya. It's a lot of nature. It's even flat at high altitude.
It's a cultural thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a cultural thing. There's no running, because I asked it to people there. I said, how come you guys have no runners? He said, well, people don't run here.
Isn't that strange, especially with a country that in a lot of the rural areas is undeveloped? You'd think there'd be the same reasons for so many people running as there are in Africa, in Ethiopia and Kenya.
They didn't get colonized by the Brits and get schools where there's school sports. Yeah, but in
I know.
In Kenya, the Brits have played a big role.
Yeah, but in many of those South American countries, walking is huge. For example, you go to Mexico and some of the other
Mexican have this
mainland South America
have this Indian tribe that they run 130 kilometers but slow pace.
Yeah.
Herman Silva tried to turn them into marathoners, but they didn't like it at all.
12.5 kilometers on the clock, 39 3/4 minutes for this pack as they head back down towards Paderewski Street. That is the women's pack, obviously now a little way behind the men, and it's 14 strong. There's a couple of men in there, so 12 women in that lead pack, and that would be the top 3 women from each of the 4 teams, including, of course, the bench runners, the reserves, who are tasked with completing the race in case they are needed to step in for a dropout.
And the men there are on 2:11 pace.
So it's coming down.
At the moment.
It's coming down. But look how spread out they are across the road. It indicates, 8 or 9 across the road. There's no hint of sheltering. Wearing 6 there to the left of picture for the Volkswagen team is Purity Rionoripo. Very, very consistent, a 2:20 performer. Although she dropped out of Valencia last December. Did a lot of halves back in the early part of her career, loads of halves, and she won 7 out of 9 of them. There she is to extreme left of picture, wearing number 6 with the blue shield bib. Good track background too. She's an 8:44 3,000 meter runner. Rionoripo. She's got real pedigree.
Yeah, she was a World Youth standout. She won World Youth title in 2009.
World Youth 3000, yeah.
And she was second at the World Junior Cross Country in 2009. So there was a lot of for her to be expected on the track as well. But she didn't really do it on the track. Then won the marathon in Paris 2017 at the same day as her then husband Paul Longyatta. He won on the same day the men's marathon. Then had some private issues and went down a bit. But yeah, she's a big talent, and she will always, if she trains, she will always be successful.
We're looking at Eva Vrabcová at the back, Nývltová at the back of that trio of men. The big Czech hope, former cross-country skier, as I said. She holds the national record for the Czech Republic with that bronze medal performance in Berlin in 2018 at the European Championships, where she ran 2:26.31. She's a mum, has a dog here, as I said, along with the rest of the family, and actually had a great year in 2017 leading into those European Championships. She was 14th in the London World Championships and then a 7th in New York that November in 2017, and then of course it all came together with a medal performance in 2018. There is that
the
women's pack.
They're on 2:23 pace, so they're on honest pace at the moment, and Eva still runs on 2:24 pace at the moment.
Wow. although she's dropped back fairly quickly, I think, in the last 10 minutes or so. But as you can see, Team Skupina Czech still out in front with a slight margin back to Team Birel and then Team Mattoni and Volkswagen at the rear at the moment. But that could change, couldn't it? You know, you get this false impression of Team Volkswagen being in 4th place all the time. They might yet win. Maybe they run it clever. Could be. Maybe there's some people conservative going out there. The team result won't be decided by the ones in front here. This will be the last runners. Unless they run personal bests. Yeah, but that I don't see that happen, because we're almost 45 minutes into the race. We're at 2:10, 2:11 pace. Most runners have personal best of 2:7 and faster. Some have 2:8. But it's hard to run 2:6 when you come halfway in 65. So at the moment they're moving along Edward Benesse Street. And Benesse, he was the man in charge of the Czech government when they were in exile in 1939 to 45 during World War II. They'll shortly turn left over the Chekhov Bridge. But that is stretching out that group, Michel. I mean, I know you mentioned that there were surges going on, but I get the impression it's pretty aggressive. It's now Atnafu Kinde that is pushing the pace. He's the fastest man in the race with 2 or 3:51 when he won Valencia in 2019. That was his debut marathon. And of course, he didn't do a lot of marathons after that, because 2020, we hardly had any races. He probably was booked for one of the World Marathon Majors. They were all cancelled. And then there were not a lot of opportunities for him. Well, many of these athletes, they certainly haven't run this year. The vast majority of them at race, and we're nearly in June. But a lot of them had maybe one race last year. I mean, you know, how do you earn a living? How do you pay your bills when you're not racing? Okay, you might have a shoe contract, but it's tough. but most of the elite athletes that had a contract, they were really taken care of by the shoe companies. Of course, the shoe companies had all kind of rights to reduce and to deduct or cancel contracts, and they did it, but to such a marginal thing that athletes with a contract still had a proper year last year. But of course, when contracts expired at the end of 2020, many were without contracts. That's Kenneth Keita wearing 7 there, leading. Keita, the 24-year-old. This is his 4th marathon. His last marathon was, well, some 18 months ago now, and he was 7th in Frankfurt. But he is a 2:07 performer from Frankfurt in 2018. And he's a great half-marathon racer, as we see that lead change. I think they're coming... What they do is they come over that Chekhov Bridge and onto Parizhsky Street, and they anticipate the water station. So there's a little bit of jostling and changing of positions as they come in a couple hundred yards to that drink station. But they already made some adjustments to the water stations, because I think the tables were a little bit too close to the curbs. And then too far away from the middle of the road. Yeah. So too close to the curbs, too far from the middle of the road. And... so there were their cones, and so those flags also are a bit. They could have been a bit more inside. But actually, what's great is that every team has its own table, so it's actually an improvement on most big city marathons, where sometimes you see chaos at drink stations because there are such big packs. Here, there's just 8 athletes going for each table, and they're pretty spread out, men and women. So it's a relatively smooth process. 4 laps done. 46 minutes 10 with Atnafu at the front there with this pack of, well, I haven't counted it recently. What is it, about 12? I think it was 12. 1 or 2 athletes, as you mentioned, Michel, beginning to struggle there and drop away. Was that Thomas Kiplagat? Yeah, that's Thomas Kiplagat. Struggling a bit. He was leading in the beginning of the race, although the pace wasn't high. Yuri Homalac. He was a 63:23 half marathon runner. He's run under 2:28 times, but he is due a personal best, that 2:14:35 from Berlin in 2019, after a good solid chunk of training in E10 up in the Rift Valley, where so many of these Kenyans come from. I really hope he does lop a chunk of his best. So after 15K, well, 14.9, they had 46.10, that's 2:10:30 pace.
So yeah, it's. But then now it's slowed down again. You know, we had that. They went down that on that road after crossing the bridge.
Yeah, they're almost bunching now, aren't they?
Now they're bunching up again. And probably they were going for that sprint at 15K, but there was no bonus because they're a bit off pace for the required time.
Yeah, what did they need? So needed to go through 15K in
44:34, I believe.
Yeah, 44:34. Exactly. Yeah. The women 50:03. They'll be off it as well. You know, tough for Jiří Homolák. Those lads are all running in a big pack, and the leading ladies running in a pack. He's all on his own with 48 minutes on the clock, so he's got almost an hour and a half.
The only luck he will have some of the national championship runners
to chase. Yeah.
So it's on a loop course like this, you run alone, but probably not for the whole 2 hours. Yeah.
They're running down that, avoiding the cobbles, running down that flat stretch of paving down the middle of the cobbles. As we see this split screen, the ladies obviously, what, about half a lap behind now? They're on that northern stretch alongside the river, running westwards, and then we'll take a left onto the Chekhov Bridge. And there's the left of picture. You can see the men going under the Powder Tower, which is one of the great architectural features of the old city. It really is rather glorious. At one time used for storing gunpowder. That wasn't its original reason for being built. It's actually one of the old 13 city gates, the Powder Tower, but now it's just deeply embedded in the city, of course. Do you know what, Michel? I mean, I've been in the city for 3 or 4 days now, and the organisers have been so worried about the weather because we've had a lot of rain, a lot of grey skies, a lot of wind.
And the whole of Europe.
Last 3 or 4 days. Well, yeah, exactly. But this is made for television, made for marathon racing weather. It is quite superb. And they are making the most of it. And I think we've got some wonderful racing to come as we go through 16K up at the front of the race. These ladies obviously about 1.5 kilometers behind. So the men, what, about 20 minutes from halfway? Sorry, about 12 minutes, 14 minutes from halfway.
So the women pass that 14.9K, that is after 5 laps. And so they had... Yeah,
they up to 5 of the 30 done.
But they really increasing the speed. They're really under 2:23 now. So women really picked it up and started racing already.
Haven't they just? The tall figure in green there, number 8, is Betty Lempus. She is the bench runner. She's a reserve runner, Lempus there. And I wonder if it is any different for them mentally, knowing that they're a bench runner, that they probably won't be scoring for their team. It shouldn't be, because they are actually still very much in a valid marathon. There's 2 events on in effect here. There is the marathon itself, which is, as ever, perfectly normal and valid. And the bench runners can be incorporated into that, of course. And there is the battle of the teams, as we see Eva Vrabcová Nývltová move through with her male accompaniment.
Yeah, and Team Mattoni suddenly has 3 runners that are on a personal best predicted time. So they took the lead there.
And still the blue VW down in 4th and last place at the moment, but we're only at what, about 1/3 distance of this marathon. Valary Aiyabei at the front there, and Tigist Abachu, her teammate, who's never run a half marathon. Tigist on her back is just at the back of that pack, maybe beginning to struggle there with number 4 in the green to the right of picture. She's never run a half marathon. She only has run 1 race a year the last couple of years, 2019, 2020. In fact, just looking at Tigist Abayachu, she's only run 2 races in all of 2018, 2019 and 2020. Actually, she didn't race at all in 2018. So many of these athletes are running their 3rd or 4th race within about 3 years. It's been tough, really tough for them.
Yeah, there was lack of competition, and then when there was a competition, it was not always possible to come because of travel restrictions. Managers are really struggling to get visa. Embassies are closed. Procedures for visas are not open, and you need all kind of letters and permission for athletes to travel.
Just looking, you can see in the background just now that I think it was Willy Canciania just beginning to drop away off the back of this pack. He's struggling to stay with it. They're on the fifth lap of 13, these men. They've almost completed their fifth lap, but that men's pack is still, what, about 12 strong. The women's pack is beginning to thin out a little bit more, Michel.
Yeah, the men all, let's say, the strongest runners of the teams, they're still all together, except for, we lost early Sami Wanjiku. He's not with this group anymore, and I'm trying to see if he's still in the race. Yeah, he's still running, but he's running on a 2:18 pace.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think it's better now for Team Birel to tell Samuel from tactical perspective to drop out, so they can activate the bench runner.
Well, he dropped out of Otsu last year. It's his 12th marathon. He's 33. All marathon runners vary, don't they? You know, some marathon runners can manage to run 3 per year. That's fairly rare. Vast majority of good, strong, consistent marathon runners do 2 per year. But some athletes just don't seem to have so many good marathons in them, while you can find others who have done 20 and more at world-class level.
I think the majority gets their personal best within the first 5.
Really?
Yeah, and of course that is now all skewed with the shoes, but
of course it is.
But before that, yeah, many got their personal best in the first 5, and to come back to that, 2 is ideal. If you want a long marathon career, 2 is probably the best.
2 per year.
2 per year. The ones that are chasing 3, then actually what you get is 4 in 12 months. You know, it's 2 per year, but it's 3 in 12 months. If you run 2 per year. So what I've seen with athletes that are chasing those marathons and try to run 3 in 1 calendar year, their careers normally are not that long.
Yeah, I know. And
or the performances, they fade off very quickly.
You look at the likes of Eliud Kipchoge and some other athletes who have been running consistently for 8, 10 years or more, and some of them have the most remarkably consistent pattern of 2 marathons per year.
Dickson Chumba, one of them, 11-year marathon career.
Yeah.
We still have Eliud Kipchoge. Haile Gebrselassie had already a whole track career, but still had a long marathon career after that. Felix Limo had a long marathon career. Emmanuel Mutai, he was there for like 9 years.
Almost 18 kilometers then for this elite pack of men as they conclude their 5th lap. There it is, and wearing 7 for Team Birel is Kenneth Keita. He is a bench runner, by the way. He's a reserve runner, but so in the Battle of the Teams race, he may not be a factor, but his time, of course, will count when he finishes the race. He hasn't raced for 20 months, Kenneth Keita. Ran his personal best. Michel was saying that they often run their best time in their first 5 marathons. He ran his personal best in his debut. That was a 5th place in Frankfurt back in 2018 when he ran 2:07. But this is only his 4th marathon.
Yeah. We have Olomouc. Let's see, he's on struggling a bit. He's on a 2:15 projected marathon time.
That's tough.
So he's losing quick.
By the way, this square was established in the 14th century, the old town square. There have been executions here, a lot of beheadings over the years. It's seen its fair share of action, that square, although these days it's a different type of action, I think. They have a huge Christmas market and a big Easter market in the square every year.
They're coming back again. Thomas Kiplagat is coming back again, so they must slow down.
Willy Canciania tucked in behind him. So is this another surge from Norbert Keegan?
Yeah.
tucked in behind him is Kita, and single file. It's interesting, isn't it? Whenever you get single file like that, I mean, here it might be because they're trying to run down that smooth strip down the middle of the road, but it's often just an indication that there is a surge going in. Do you think that in these more padded shoes, for want of a better word, that the cobbles are less of a factor than they might have been in the old days?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of experience with that yet, but you would expect that it on the other hand, you're less stable on a higher shoe, and with the
ballers at corners. Remember the World Half Marathon Championships in Gdynia in October last year? A couple of athletes fell.
Well, you're less stable in the curves, and in the beginning the shoes also were struggling a bit with wet conditions, wet surfaces. Of course, we don't have that today. But it needs some training on the shoes. And it's also going to be interesting for coaches is what is ideal? Should you do every hard long run or hard session on these shoes? Or do you have to exchange with the more conventional shoes? What is best to become the best athlete?
No, it's true. So they're on the 6th lap then, and they've just gone under the powder tower again. And this is quite an impressive surge from Norbert Keegan. He's done a lot of the aggressive running. You can see that orange arm sleeve he's wearing to indicate his squad, if you can't pick out whether or not his shield bib is red or orange. Hasn't run a half marathon for 3 years, Norbert Keegan. He's very much a marathon runner. And in the ladies' race, this pack is breaking down.
Yeah. Going to 5 women, with Aiyabei doing all the work.
6 women just beginning to drop off the back. I think one of the Czech Championship runners, male runners, just knowing that if they're moving along at about 2:23 tempo, something like that, that'll suit him very nicely. Well, to the left, you can see Purity Rionoripo. 4 in the orange there is Bedatu Herpa. She's a 2:21 performer. And a personal best in Dubai back in January 2020, and struggling a little bit there in the red, wearing 6, is Guteni Schoen, who is a 2:20 performer. She's had a fair share of wins, as shown in Seoul and Ottawa and Seville. She's had big wins, but she might be struggling a little bit. Or is she? There's those team scores, with the team Mattoni on top by a small margin. Quite a margin back to Volkswagen, Michel, and that is because they haven't got anybody on a personal best at the moment.
Yeah, I will check that later. There's a list I have. Just the women have gone into 2:21 territory. They're really cranking it up, really going fast now. And they score the points for, and you see that gives Mattoni also. They have 2 women, although Lempes is a bench runner, so she's not counting yet.
Purity Rionoripo look quite comfortable there at the front. You can spot her with that very distinctive haircut. There's
that's a lot of work.
The old city to the right. And in fact, our hotel, top left of picture there, is only about a kilometre from the old town square. It's a small city. It's like a big village is the centre of Prague. It's really glorious. In some respects, I suppose in American terms, it reminds me a bit of Boston, you know. Everything seems close by.
Yeah, one of the best American cities, Boston.
Oh, gorgeous.
Oh, they've calmed down again in the men's race. And
yeah, but actually, you can see that Willy Kanchania, and was it Keegan?
Yeah, but I think they run a quite even pace, and it's just these guys in the front, they go up and down.
I think there's 10 in this lead pack, and still Kenneth Keita it is at the front. He's raced many times in the Czech Republic. He's raced here in Prague over the half marathon, but Ústí nad Labem as well. It's a city that stages a lot of big races. I guess that's important to athletes. If they've been to a city before and they go back and they've had a good experience, psychologically when they return, they're up for it. They feel that it's a welcoming place. You just get good vibes, don't you?
Yeah, you have good memories. you didn't
You've
feel
probably got memories, different memories, to good times in some cities yourself.
Oh, good times, yeah. Had nothing to do with
You
times.
were telling me last night about your
running.
student days, in fact. You had some good times.
My parents are listening to Tim.
Okay.
Let's not.
They speak English?
Yeah, very well.
Number 3 in the green shield there is Lencho Anbessa. He's one athlete who I think might be due a breakthrough. He's a 2:06 performer. He's got no track pedigree at all. But won Venice back in 2019 in 2:10. I think it was one of the years when Venice wasn't underwater. Was it last year or in 2019 when Venice was took place in about 60 centimeters, about 2 feet of water?
Yeah, it was. It started during the race, and they had to stop it at one point.
But it is the ocean. How does a bit of rain? It's just bad winds and tides, I think.
Because I think basically Venice is
makes
built
Venice go
underwater, no?
Eh?
Venice is built underwater.
Whose idea was that? So left onto the bridge that will take them down into the old city once again. You can see why they call this the city of 100 spires. I mean, that cathedral up on the top of the hill there isn't even in the city. Top left, you can see there are a small, almost like the Eiffel Tower. That apparently is 1/6 of the height of the real Eiffel Tower. Very, very similar in construction, though, just a smaller scale. And down off this bridge now. The Chekhov Bridge onto Parizhsky Street or Avenue, which is, if you've got a few pounds to spend and you fancy a bit of designer shopping, you would have a field day on that avenue. It was, Michel and I were laughing yesterday at the just one designer shop after another, after another, after another. Each of them with a smartly dressed doorman, but no customers around, not yet. Maybe later in the summer, hopefully.
And we weren't paid yet, Tim, so...
Huh?
I said we weren't paid yet, so we couldn't enter the shops.
No. Another few days. So Willy Kanchania is back with them now.
Yeah.
It's closed up.
And it has all to do with the front group surging and slowing down again. I think Willy runs an even pace. Yes, that's an Ethiopian-born Czech runner. He's running for...
on the left in yellow.
And he's leading in the Czech Championships.
Ooh, now this is Lilia Fisikovici.
Ooh.
Fisikovici of Moldova,
Looks
who looks like she's struggling, doesn't she? She's a 2:27 performer, holds the national record. That was set in London in 2019. But she does not look comfortable. This is her 8th marathon. She's very experienced. In fact, she ran in Rio. She was 27th in Rio in 2:34, which wasn't bad in that heat. Set a couple of national records for Moldova, Fisikovici, but she looks to be in trouble, and for her, well before halfway. Now, this is a great shot. You get a great perspective with this sort of camera shot where you can actually see the pavement in the background, how fast it's going past, and they are surging here, Michel. I think it's a slight downhill section. That's why they really are pouring it on. But Fisikovici,
I doubt we will see her at the finish line. Looks like she's struggling. She's qualified for the Olympics already. She went to the Olympics in Rio, finished one spot ahead of Eva or one spot down. Eva was number 26, I think, in Rio. She was 27th.
Nývltová 26th,
and she was 27th. And we got the name of number 201 who's in the men's lead group. We'll talk about him later. It's Gebret Sadik Weldu Negash, Ethiopian who came to the Czech Republic, and he's having a nice race. This is probably the right pace
yellow
for him.
vest at the back of this group.
Bright yellow vest.
What's his name again?
His name is Gebret Sadik Weldu Negash.
He's got a strange running style, hasn't he? He almost runs from side to side. Right at the back left, back at the back right of that group, as you see him in that fluorescent yellow vest.
It's now Benson Kipruto in the lead. Like his slow stride, you know, it looked like so relaxed.
Yeah.
And he's training in a good training group with Evans Chebet, who ran 2:03.00 in Valencia in December. And he's also training with the bronze medalist of the World Championships in Doha, Amos Kipruto.
That gives you confidence, doesn't it? When your training partners have great races and you're training with them every day and you've got a race coming up.
And that's how they normally think.
Yeah.
And now suddenly they're in a team that.
Well, there in the green, that's Tibor Sahajda, who's a 30-year-old Czech. He's a 2:15 performer, runs for the Bratislava club. Jiří Homolák there, gradually being reeled in, I think, by Sahajda, who runs for the Mattoni team. He's the Czech representative in the Mattoni team. Now, he may be several minutes behind that lead pack in the men's race, but his time and the score it converts to could win the race for his team. So it's a fascinating chemistry, the way this concept has been put together, where every one of the six can play a huge part. I suppose it's a bit like in cross-country racing and the American collegiate scene and the world cross-country, where, you know, the team score can be dramatically enhanced or worsened by their last scorer. Well, to the left of picture is the man who has done so much of the leading, Benson Kipruto, wearing that, in fact, Norbert Keegan, excuse me. It's the orange number 5. Green number 7 to right of picture, Abel Kipchumba. He is a bench runner for the Mattoni team. Familiar with Prague, was 4th in the Prague half marathon in 2018 and then 9th in Prague half marathon in 2020. And actually 11th in 2019, the E10-based Abel Kipchumba. You can see Willy Canciania in the green vest there to the right for Peru. So it does indicate, as you said quite rightly, Michel, that the pace has slowed a little bit.
Yeah. And I have to correct myself. It is Gebre Sadiq Weldonegash, but he runs for Norway.
Ah.
So he must be allowed like a final chance to
34
run
years old. Yeah.
209.
Runs for the Bull Club. That's a big Oslo club, I think.
Okay. 209 PB, but from 2014.
So past halfway.
Here.
So the men actually passed halfway now. 7 of the 13 laps being the 7th lap being negotiated, coming up to 23 kilometers, and they head onto that northern strip of the quadrangle of this lap that they have to get around 30
Yeah,
times.
so they had 20.9K because this was after 6 laps in 64.56. So that would put them like 65.30.
So yeah, around 2:11. I mean, that'll come down the second half. We could see some real fireworks. And actually, he's surging again, isn't he, Norbert Keegan? He's looked the most ready to push throughout the race. To be fair, I would reckon for about the last 45 minutes, he's spent a lot of time at the front or close to the front, and he's testing them again here. Now, do you think this is purposely surging, or is he actually trying to break away now? Because that's a concerted acceleration from him.
For sure, he must feel comfortable. And for a guy that missed the season because of injury and then missed the season because of the pandemic, he must be so eager to run and didn't come to stroll around Prague, but make it a real race.
Absolutely. Well, you can see there to the right of picture, halfway along that road, the men's lead pack heading towards the bridge where they will take that left and get back into the old town. And there's a slight climb as they go up past that tram. very gradual climb as they go up onto the tram. But once they've negotiated that climb and turned left onto the bridge, then they're projected on a long downward sweep onto Paryski Street, which is actually rather lovely for them because it is quick running, and that of course will be the home straight in a few laps time. But it'll be fascinating to see how quick they negotiate that. Keegan, yeah, as it says, 2:05.13 personal best, but while this is his 9th marathon start, he didn't finish in Boston in April 2018, he didn't finish in Tokyo early in 2019. And that shakes your confidence, I guess, when you have to drop out of races. Less so when it's because of injury than if you're just having a really bad day.
Yeah, yeah, you know, athletes always want to run. Even if there's a small niggle or something, they say, oh, it won't hurt so much. But a marathon will always find your weakest spot. You can negotiate 30K, but after 35, the body will say, you had a problem in your Achilles tendon. Here it is.
Yeah, exactly.
You had a problem in your hip. I found it.
I know. And the trouble is, isn't it, that in marathons, if you push on much beyond about 32, 33K, you're getting into the area of the race where physiologically you're damaging yourself. If you're going to drop out, make it by 30K is kind of a rule, isn't it?
Yeah,
do it by 30K.
So always a bit cowardless, also a bit cowardly.
Yeah, it's a really tough decision, isn't it? You know, it's if you're having a bad run or a bad training session, do you drop out because you've got a good reason for it, or are you using it as an excuse?
I worked with Emmanuel Mutai, and he had a lot of good marathons, but he had some pretty bad ones as well. And he said, but Emmanuel, wouldn't it be better to drop out? And he said, no, I don't want to drop out. He said, no, I didn't start a marathon to drop out. So if it's a bad run, it's a bad run.
That's very admirable.
Yeah, no, it's admirable, but it's not always, of course, it's not always clever from maybe career perspective or even from health perspective.
Now, we're getting a shot there of Moria Stuartova. There she is in the yellow vest, wearing number 1 for the Birel team, the 25-year-old. Now, she is a huge talent. She's run 2:29.39. That was in Bern on the 3rd of April. She missed the Olympic qualifying standard by 9 seconds, and she's hoping desperately here to get those 9 seconds and get the Olympic qualifying.
But she's on 2:30 pace at the moment.
So she needs to find a minute. She's run on pace for about 2:30.34. I don't think the weather was very good either in that Bern race back in April. So
no, it was not good.
It was not good. So there's certainly some time there. But look at that forward lean. Wow, what a weird running style. I know she's attacking here now. This is Purity Rionoripo, who is
and
prolific half-marathon racer, but she's a little glance over her shoulder there was telling. I think she's really attacking here.
Yeah, and she's dropping Aiyabei. One.
And going with her is Worknesh Lempus. There she is in 8. Oh no, actually it's not.
No, it's not
Lempus. Excuse me.
It's Worknesh Mola.
That's a Beru, isn't it?
No, it's Worknesh Mola.
Is it a red vest?
No, it's a red. Sorry.
It's a red shield.
Red. It's Menseret Belete.
Yeah, Belete. Red and orange is a little
and then
confusing.
It's Bedatu Herpa.
But they're having to respond to her game. She's calling the tune, isn't she? And it's really broken up, this little women's pack. They're number 6, that's Valary Aiyabei.
And Volkswagen is coming back into the battle. You see? They're closing the gap.
Closing the gap, still in 4th at the moment. As you can see, Team Birel and Skupina Ches 1 and 2.
But with Rionoripo taking charge here. Although
Aiyabei, look over her shoulder. She
Aiyabei
really
is fighting back. Aiyabei is fighting. Yeah. Aiyabei is fighting her way back into the group. Maybe some bad patch that she's going through, but she's coming back to the front.
But if you're going to make an attack like this, and you're determined to do it, you've just got to keep your head down and keep going. And she's tucked in the slipstream there, isn't she? Is Menseret Belete. 6th in the World Half Marathon Championships in Valencia back in 2018. She's one of the youngest in the race. She's only 21, Belete, there with that bun on top of her head in the centre of picture. It's only her 3rd marathon, though. Still learning. And Bedatu Herpa in the light blue vest, was in shot just now, wearing 4 for the Skupina Czech team. She hasn't let up.
Well,
this is
a serious, serious attack. And
do you think in this sort of situation, the athletes tucked in behind her recognize this as a surge that she will not be able to maintain, so they're just trying to be patient to see if they can hang on? Or do you think eventually they will have to let go, because maybe it's not a surge, maybe she can hold this for a long time?
I mean, of course she surged, but I think she's holding the pace now for a few hundred meters already.
Oh yeah.
And looks like she still looks very comfortable. I'm very convinced the way she does this. And Aiyabei tried to get back into that group, but had to drop back again. So I hope she didn't burn herself.
The thing is, if you're
you see now it's zigzagging. She's zigzagging.
If you're 10 or 20 meters down when somebody surges, not only have you got to accelerate to keep it only 20 meters the gap, but if you want to get back to them, you've got to put in double acceleration. So it's very hard.
That can cost you.
I'll tell you what though, Meseret Belete there to the right with a bun on her head, wearing 8 for Team Burrell, looks very, very calm, looks very smooth. No track pedigree at all. Set a world under 20 record for a half marathon at Copenhagen back in 2018 of 67.51. I think that still stands. She was 8th in the race, but she's a world record holder at half marathon for an under 20 athlete. So she's got fabulous speed, endurance, and the running terms.
The women are on 2:20 pace.
Oh, wow! And that projected tempo is worked out according to their average speed so far, isn't it?
Yeah.
So actually, probably their last 5K has been at 2:18 pace or something.
Really fast, yeah.
Volkswagen still in 4th place in the team race, but very, very close up against Skupina Czech. Team Mattoni and Team Burrell have a little margin on the others, but those can all change. Those team scores worked out with the, if you've just joined us in the last few minutes, with the projected finishing times of the runners converted into points. So they continually updated those team scores. But yeah, Rionoripo, Purity Rionoripo, the 27-year-old Kenyan there, wearing 6 for Team Volkswagen, really pushing hard. She didn't finish the Valencia marathon in December. She dropped out, but she's having so far a better day at the races. She's a former Paris marathon winner. She ran 2:20 to win Paris 2017, and that's one of the big global races that's a non-world marathon major.
And she's breaking away. It looks like she's breaking away.
Got the gap.
Yeah, gap is opening up.
And of course, when you've been working so hard and you've got that gap and you realize that, you get that little shot of adrenaline, you glance over your shoulder and you think, at last I've broken them, I've got my reward.
Yeah, now she doesn't have to overcook herself, because the women really increased their speed.
What a contrast though. Look at this men's pack. That's what, about 12 strong, and they're just easing along. They've slowed it.
They're enjoying the view.
Enjoying the view. Well, to the right of this men's pack is the steep hillside that sort of creates this bowl to some degree with the Vltava River between the hill and the old city. There it is. We walked along this strip yesterday where it was into quite a strong headwind. We were sheltered a little bit by the hill, but it was quite a strong headwind. But while the cloud cover has come over in the last half hour and we're no longer running in sunshine, the first hour of this race, by the way, was in beautiful sunshine, there is still, it would seem, no wind and certainly no rain at the moment, and conditions remain ideal for marathon racing in this battle of the teams in the Czech capital city of Prague. And as mentioned, if you have just joined us, this is a unique, innovative experiment in a way, this battle of the teams, a team race in a marathon. And marathon racing, of course, traditionally is absolutely an individual sport. Oh,
we saw that coming. Lilia Fisikovici, she drops out. That means that Team Volkswagen lost one of the runners, and that means that Worknesh Mola, who is in third at the moment,
is a scorer.
Is a scorer.
It does indeed. Yeah, she's a 2:24 performer, Worknesh Lempus. I wonder if there's any way in which she will be told that she is now a scoring athlete.
Yeah. No, Mola is not in third. I'm confused here.
Running her 9th marathon though, she's very experienced.
No.
But her teammate, ironically, Purity Rionoripo, who is herself very consistent, is the athlete that's broken up that women's pack as the men negotiate, approach 27 kilometers on this 8th circuit of 13 here in Prague, and get over the Chekhov Bridge yet again, head down Parížský Street, and head towards the the old city square, which actually is not very far down that street. It's only about 500 or 600 meters down that street before you break out into the open city square.
Actually, Team Volkswagen has a little problem, because not only did Fisikovici dropped out, also Diana Kipyokei dropped out, and that means that both bench runners have been activated.
Kipyokei's dropped out.
Yeah, Kipyokei also dropped out. And also from Team Birel, we have Birke Bienne, who dropped out. We have, and also Team Skupina Czech lost 2 runners already.
Who are?
Aga Ruti.
Ooh, Ruti Aga, wow.
Ruti, sorry, wow. And Bedatu Hirpa.
Budatu Herpa, so they've lost 2 of their elite females, Team Skupina Czech. Well, that women's race is becoming far more testing and much quicker up in the front end, relatively speaking, than the men's race. This men's pack is looking very comfortable in this middle section of this battle of the teams, the Prague City Marathon of 2021, an elite-only race. The athletes we're seeing at the front end of the men's race and variously at the front end of the women's race are accompanied today by about 60 entrants in the Czech National Championships, but only about 100 starters in total in the Czech capital as they ease their way through the old city square and negotiate this wide left sweep, that men's pack. They certainly have not got anybody doing any aggressive attacking at the front end in their race, as we've experienced in the women's over the last 15 minutes or so. Well, the cloud cover is fairly complete now. I'm not sure we're going to see this, the sun again, but that doesn't matter because Purity Rionoripo has got the gap. You can see the others on the bridge there, probably about 80 meters behind. Little glance over her shoulder though. Winner of the Paris Marathon in 2017. She ran 2:20.55 there. She actually won her debut in Lisbon back in 2015 in 2:25. She's a good racer, good competitor, and enjoys a little downhill sweep here now. Interesting, isn't it, Michel? She's got a reasonable track background. She's run 8:44 for 3,000 and, well, on the roads, 31:01 for 10K.
That was the traditional road, no?
Well, it was.
Cross-country track.
I always call me old-fashioned, but I always liked people who went through the gears of a career. They ran on the track and then moved onto the roads and mastered 10K and half marathon and then move up to the marathon. So you've ticked all those boxes. And I think actually it can make you a more complete racer. If you look at Turgat and Gebre Selassie, who are both world record holders for the marathon, they had wonderful careers. And of course, Kenenisa Bekele.
Yeah. Yeah, the money in the road race scene has changed that all. And the fact that the places in track races, in the big track races, is limited. And you can't make a living anymore as a 10,000 meter runner on the track. Yeah. Because there were hardly any 10,000s, and then 5,000s. So you have to combine it always with 5,000s, but there are also limited number of people that can run. So, and then suddenly there's a lot of money thrown at you to run a fast half or run a even more money when you run the top marathons. So yeah, in Africa, some people don't even want to discuss track.
And that's perfectly understandable, isn't it? Nobody can criticize them for that. I can remember having a chat with one of the big Italian agents, big in every sense, Federico Rosa, probably 10 or 12 years ago, and he said, Tim, I've got guys running 12:55 for 5,000 meters, which is a fabulously fast world-class time, he said, and they're coming away from races with $500.
Yeah.
They can go move to half marathons and be running pretty well, be making 20 times that.
No, where the economics in the road race scene really grew over the past two decades. In track, it has stalled or even gone down.
Yeah,
the number of opportunities
really
have gone down.
As somebody from a track background who never got it together on the roads, I really regret the fact that so much of this wonderful distance running talent is not going through that section of their career, perhaps let's call it the first half of a career on the track, and then moving to the roads. If I was in charge, I'd say, no, I'm sorry, you've got to spend 5 years running 5,000, 10,000, then you move to the track.
I work as an agent as well, and I have those discussions all the time. But I have told guys that were 18, 19-year-old and said, I want to run a marathon, and together with the coach, worked with Patrick Sang at that time, we said, well, if you want to run on the roads, you have to look for somebody else to manage you and coach you, because we want you to go through cross country, we want you to represent Kenya at every level, and in the end we made him run a half marathon, won a medal at the Worlds, and then he was able to go to the marathon.
Well, she might not be aesthetically the most pleasing runner to watch, Purity Rionoripo, the arms flapping from side to side.
But the legs move nice.
But wow, is she doing some damage to that group behind her. She's broken away. Now, the foreshortening effect of the camera shot there makes it look like the pursuers are quite close, but actually they're a long way behind. 28.8 kilometers done by the men at the front end of the race, 9 of 13 laps. So these ladies are probably just entering their 9th lap, about to enter their 9th lap. And Rionoripo has got a good margin ahead of the rest of them. She's a 68.5-minute half marathon runner. She's a 2:20 marathon runner. I don't know if she's going to break 2:20 today, but she's started 7 marathons. She's finished 6, including wins in Paris and Lisbon, as mentioned earlier. She is a very, very special racer, and she attacked mid-race here, Michel, and I really admire the way she took the bull by the horns and really fought hard to get that gap.
And if she continues this, she will break 2:20, and might be the highest scorer of the whole marathon.
And she's the Volkswagen scorer. She's the Volkswagen team athlete. They need those points.
Yeah, they really need the points. They're fourth at the moment. But you see, there's only 100 points between the number 1 and, or 130 points between the number 1 and the number 4.
Yeah, it's still close in that team race. Well, of course, under normal circumstances here in Prague, they put on marathon races for 20, 25,000 people. There'd be tens of thousands of spectators stretched out around this circuit. Now, I understand that there was a late decision to allow spectators to come out on the course, but it's so early on a Sunday morning. It's still only a couple of minutes past 8 a.m. here, and the weather's been awful for the last few days. It's certainly not great for the last few days, so perhaps a lot of the would-be spectators are sitting at home watching this.
It looks like Valary Aiyabei found her second self.
Yeah, that little trio of ladies.
And she came back to the 2 Ethiopians, and now she's running smooth again. So she had maybe some bad kilometer where she didn't feel too comfortable, and found herself again.
Now, 10 athletes in shot, 2 just beginning to struggle off the back of this men's group. I wonder if that means there's another attack going in. And this time it's Yitayal Atnafu, wearing number 5 for Team Mattoni, the 28-year-old Ethiopian. He is the fastest in the field. He's a 2:03 performer. Did that when he won Valencia in December 2019. Little upslope there to take them left onto the bridge here before they head back into the old city. But the men's race has been far more comfortable than the women's race. It's been different, there have been surges, but this is still quite a big pack, Michel, with an hour and a half on the clock.
Yeah, it's losing a few now. But we have seen this before, where people were maybe 5, 6, 10 meters behind, and then when they get into town again, it looks like they calm it down. It just depends now on if anyone wants to take over the search.
Well, that Chekhov bridge reminds me of some of the Parisian bridges over the Seine, as we see Eva Vrabcová Nývltová with a couple of men accompanying her in her 6th marathon. She is the national record holder. 2:26:31 was her national record set when she took that bronze medal at the European Championships in 2018. And this men's pack bouncing along, one or two of them looking very relaxed. They're about to lap Vrabcová Nývltová. Look. Drink stations being passed by these men. After 9 laps.
We have 1:32:49 after 9 laps. That would. Yeah, 2:10. They're still on 2:10 pace.
Well, this is racing in the raw. No pacemakers in Prague today. You can see Willy Cancania in the red shorts and green top, the 29-year-old Peruvian, looking for the Olympic qualifying standard. 8 in that women's race in the colours of the team Volkswagen is Worknesh
No, it's Mola.
Yes, well, Mola.
It's
yeah, but Worknesh Lempus is what's on our official paperwork, but Mola is her name as well.
No, I think it's a mistake. They left Lempus out because she replaced Lempus.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. Now this looks like a little surge, but I've said this before, there's a sense of deja vu here, and I think sometimes it's because they just stick to that. They all want to get onto that narrow strip of smoother paving down the middle of the cobbles as they head now towards the powder tower. That powder tower separates the old town from the new town, apparently, although you would hardly know it now. It's been there for, well, getting on for 600 years. The city's expanded a little bit in that time. But he's looking good, Kenneth Keita. 2:07 marathon debut in Frankfurt back in 2018, and that indeed was his is his personal best. It's only his 4th marathon, this. Hasn't raced for 20 months, so a lot of frustration being unleashed here by many of these athletes. You know, they've been training month in, month out, waiting for a chance to race.
And it will end careers as well. People who cannot handle that insecurity on when can I race, why am I training for. I see athletes already going down, athletes that we probably won't see back because they have started another business, because they got so bored they started drinking. It's a serious problem in Africa.
Rionoripo in glorious isolation. She's got the build for a runner, hasn't she? Look at those legs, they go on forever. Long, loping stride. And the gap back to the tracing trio is, I would estimate from that shot, about 150 meters. That is big, that's 20-25 seconds. As we see this glorious shot from one of the drones being used for camera work over the river. And there's that trio of ladies with one male companion. But I wonder if they'll settle down now to a little battle amongst themselves for 2nd place, rather than focus upon a serious pursuit of Rionoripo, because that is a big gap.
Yeah, well, it's still a lot of kilometers left as well in the race. Aiyabei found herself again. She's pushing that group, but yeah. Rionoripo still has a very good stride. It's not slowing down. And besides the prize money, there's also individual prize money for the winner of every gender. It's $10,000 for the winner, $5,000 for number 2. So
you're an agent. You've memorized all that money stuff.
Yes,
you?
Of course. there is something to fight for. There is something to.
Prize money goes down to
fifth
place, I think, $2,000 for 5th place, and actually $48,000 is the total prize money for the individual marathon race, and it is cumulative. If athletes are in a winning team, for example, if you're in the winning team and you get, you share part of that $32,000, $4,000 would be your part because all 8 athletes get a share of it, then you can come out with quite a good payday.
It was fair to share it among the 8.
Even if they drop out, they get to share.
Yeah.
Get to share it. Rionoripo, though, looking really strong. Keeps glancing around every so often just to keep herself well informed of what's happening behind, and that's smart thinking, really. Some coaches say don't do it because it gives the opposition some encouragement that you are unconcerned, but a little glance there. She's just checking that the gap is not closing, and then she can respond and adjust her pace accordingly if she feels there is a shortening of that gap. So I think it's just smart. She is a great racer. She's won 7 of her 9 half marathons. She very rarely doesn't finish in the first 3. So Valary Aiyabei is leading the chasing group. In the light blue vest there, top left of picture, is, I think that's Bedatu Herpa. I thought, it is Bedatu Herpa. I thought you said she dropped out. Yeah, Herpa is there. And Meseret Belete too, I think is in the red in the background with the bun on her head. So this chasing trio, they've got 2 options. One is they start watching each other and racing for 2nd place, or else they can work together, although that might be hard to coordinate at this late in the race. Work together to try and close the gap on Rionoripo.
Yeah, then there's a glitch in the system because on the computer she's DNF.
Oh, wow. Well, she's certainly not.
No.
She's got somebody wearing the wrong number. The team scores changing all the time, but Birel now out on top ahead of Team Mattoni with Subina Jez in 3rd place, and Volkswagen at the moment just in 4th place, but really tight between 3rd and 4th places in the team race with 1 hour 40 minutes on the clock as Purity Rionoripo heads out of the square and out onto her next lap. This men's pack, you know they're not pushing it hard, no. Michel, because
there's too much energy,
isn't it?
There's too much energy left in that group.
There's 9 athletes there,
and nobody wants to show it already.
You could throw your dining room table cover over that lot. You showed me a picture of the size of your living room.
It's only 30 minutes left, so it's time to bring it on.
So who's going to be the one to lose patience and kick on? You know, usually in this sort of situation, there'll be 2 or 3 at the back of the group who are hanging on, even though it's not that fast because they're having a bad day. There's 2 or 3 at the front watching each other, thinking, when do I go, when do I go? And there's 2 or 3 in the middle just playing a cagey game, not wanting to really commit. But I would imagine 5 or 6 of those 9 can kick pretty hard any time if they want, but it's very early, isn't it? It's like in a 1500 meters, kicking hard with 500 to go, or do you wait to the last 200?
And I think they all realize nobody here will probably run a personal best, so that's not what they run for. All they run for now is the win in the individual event and help their team win it.
So Dickson Chumba at the front, 34 years old, one of the oldest in the race, 21 marathon starts. he has made, and the average of his 10 best marathons, Chumba there in orange to the left of the picture, the average of his 10 best marathons is 2:06.39. He is a fabulously consistent racer, and he is one of the athletes who we were talking about earlier. Michel mentioned him actually, 2 marathons a year, almost religiously, and such is his devotion to the commercial races in the spring and the summer marathon seasons of the Northern Hemisphere that he's never run for Kenya. He's never pulled on a Kenya vest.
Never got selected.
Well, yeah, but it's because he's not focused upon that as a goal. You know, are you telling me he's not good enough to sometimes made a Kenyan team on some surface?
We had good runners that never got selected. Felix Limon never got selected for any championship. Yet he expressed he wanted to.
The Olympics is the one that everybody wants to do, but I would argue that there's a certain category of athlete for whom the World Championships doesn't have the same pull. You know, when you run the World Championships, there's prize money, but
of course,
not like New York, Chicago.
Yeah, of course, it doesn't help that normally a World Championship is run in very hot conditions. That
in the summer.
It's summer. So, but I think, especially in the beginning of your marathon career, to go even to a World Championships can really build your career and your brand for the big races, because most of the World Marathon Majors are really happy to invite medalists, really happy to have somebody who differentiates himself with a medal from other fast runners.
I think a strong argument can be made for saying that the World Marathon Championships in the Summer World Championships is not nearly as respected as it should be, and I for example, I would advocate that the World Championships every summer holds a half marathon. Everybody would do it. 10,000 meter guys, half marathon guys, marathon runners, and they could use it as preparation for the autumn marathon. So whether it was Berlin, Amsterdam, Chicago, New York, people would be more inclined to run it, and you'd get a genuine world champion. With all due respect, a lot of people cannot remember the world champions in the years gone by, but you sure as heck remember the Olympic champions. That's Susanna Heineva, the twice world champion at 400-meter hurdles, who is team captain. Heineva of Team Volkswagen. She'll be cheering on their team. And we haven't mentioned the charities associated with each team. The charity for the Team Volkswagen that the virtual runners for this Prague Marathon today can raise funds for is a Czech Union for Nature Conservation, trying to preserve the future for the youth of the Czech Republic. Heineva is the symbolic team captain, and great to see her there actually cheering on her team. They need the help at the moment, although they have moved up into 3rd place, look, for the first time in ages, if not for the entire race. The Volkswagen team have now elevated themselves to 3rd place. They're not in last, and I wonder if that progress will continue. They're quite a few points behind Team Birel and Team Mattoni.
Yeah, we're in the men's race. We've seen Norbert Keegan mostly in front. Now he's been a few kilometers already in the back of the group, and I don't know whether that's while we're losing Abel Chumba. He's a bench runner for Mattoni. He's there in the back with the blue vest, and
20 more minutes.
Well, he's a non-scorer at the moment, but of course important for Team Mattoni to have him finish in case somebody drops out. They're on 2:11 pace. According to the last split we saw at 32.8 kilometers. Went in 1:42.03.
They're on the 11th lap of 13, and it's Kenneth Keita who leads. Wearing 3 there for Team Volkswagen is Yitayal Atnafu, 28-year-old Ethiopian. He's a 2:06 performer. 5, well, we've seen him a lot of the race. Norbert Keegan, he's done more than his fair share of leading. The tall figure in the blue of Volkswagen with 7 on his chest is Mengistu Zelalem. Now, he's the bench runner for Team Volkswagen. His personal best is only 2:11. 35, so he might be heading for a personal best. You said, Michel, they're on schedule, this pack at the moment, for 2:11.
Yes, and this Volkswagen still has 3 in the leading group of the men. They have the leading women, so but they have also a bench runner in the leading man. So it's the other runners that hold them back a little bit.
But look at the points.
Yeah.
Team Birel in second, just 7 points ahead of Team Volkswagen at the moment. Volkswagen are making a bit of a push. They've gone from 4th to 3rd. Now, really now, you could say, putting pressure on Team Birel. Rionoripo looking absolutely superb as she negotiates that left-hand turn once again onto Chekhov Bridge. Heads down in towards the old city. Now, what is the gap? I think they're top right of picture. Right of picture, you can see the trio chasing. And that gap has grown. I think that's more than 150 meters now. I estimated 150 earlier, and these are my guesstimates, but I think she's pushed on to perhaps something approaching 200 meters, the lead now, and she's still looking strong. Admittedly, she's running slightly down a little gradient here onto Parisky Street.
Yeah, and she's for sub 220, which is amazing in Prague.
Isn't it just?
And it's the performance of the day at the moment.
And it would be a personal best too. And she deserves it. She's so consistent as Rionoripo, and she's run bravely here today. Really tested the opposition with that big surge, and she had to maintain it for a long time to break the others. Well, the men's pack, there they are. We're gradually zooming in on them with this glorious drone shot over the Vltava River. Clumped together. 8 of them.
And Rionoripo passed in 1:48.34 at the 10th lap. And that brings her even closer to 2:19 than to 2:20. That's how much she has increased the speed.
The pursuers, Valary Aiyabei, is the nearest to her, but she's some way down. And Aiyabei is a 2:19 performer.
Yeah, and it's but it's a lot. Eh? She opened the gap really. It's at the moment it's 54 seconds.
Team Volkswagen back down into 4th place. It's going in the wrong direction for them. But the lead up front, changing all the time between Team Mattoni and Team Birel. Those times, if you've joined us in the last half hour or so, just to clarify it for you, the runners' finishing time is being predicted by the pace they're moving at. And that predicted finishing time is converted into points. And then obviously the points of each runner in the team are added together to get those totals you can see on the screen. And the Team Birel and Team Mattoni consistently have been exchanging the lead over this last hour and 50 minutes. So not long to go. What about 20 minutes for the men if they do run around 2:10, Michel?
Yeah, it's more towards 2:11. They really didn't put any effort in it into the last 5K. And even now, nobody really wants to. Yeah, we have Kenneth Guiter leading, but he's not really pushing it. He's just
it's almost like there's been an unspoken agreement between them to just take it easy, and then, okay, boys, let's have a burn up over the final lap.
Oh, that's the early leader, 1:24. We saw him leading the first kilometer of the race.
Now being lapped. Number 3 there, Lencho Anbessa. He's only in his 4th marathon, but he did set his personal best in Dubai last year in January 2020. I was at that race. Glorious day, and a whole mass of athletes ran very, very fast times on the streets of Dubai. Dead flat course, one of the super fast courses in the global marathon scene. And he is due for a breakthrough, and Besser. It's very hard to pick out a winner or a favorite from this pack.
I'm really impressed by Benson Kipruto. The way he runs, the way he's still composed, the way he sees everything that happens in the group, and he doesn't look worried at all.
Benson Kipruto is wearing number 5 for the red shields of the Team Birel squad. Number 7 there's Kenneth Keita. He's the bench runner for Team Birrell. Now, little surge of Yitayal Atnafu in only his 3rd marathon. Got his own taxi business back in Addis as the 28-year-old Ethiopian. He's actually familiar with the streets of Prague and has run 27:36 for 10K on these streets back in 2013, so 8 years ago. He's also got a fabulous 10-mile time to his name, 45:52. That was back in your home nation in Zaandam. Where is that?
Dam to Dam. It's a very fast 10-miler. You run from Amsterdam. You run from Amsterdam to Zaandam, and it's, of course, everything is flat in the Netherlands, especially in that area where most was underwater centuries ago.
Mengistu. Mengistu Zelalem is the bench runner for Team Volkswagen, just hanging around at the back of the group. He's a 46-minute 10-mile runner.
Will it happen now, Tim, or we're still on that little middle stack?
They just get on this flatter strip every time as they run down this avenue on the between the cobbles. This is Seletna Street that the athletes were on. As we see Vrabcová, as I'm corrected to call her, not Vrabcová, my apologies. Eva Vrabcová. Still looking strong, actually, going well. Good for her to have male accompaniment all the time. She's a world-class in cross-country skiing, as I said, an Olympian indeed, and that bronze medal at the European Championships, it was a very hot day in Berlin back in 2018, was a supreme performance. That was the peak of her running career.
Yeah, she's in 8th place at the moment for the women's race. And she passed in 1:53.31, which she's still up for a decent time and a good contribution for her team. It's breaking up now.
I was just going to say, yeah, this is beginning to look like a more concerted surge, isn't it? And 1 or 2 beginning to suffer. I said a few minutes ago, there's probably 2 or 3 at the back of the group who are hanging on and hoping this doesn't happen, but it's inevitable. Lap 12 of 13, they are on. So they've got just under 2 laps, about a lap and a half to run. That's what, about 4.5K. And then there is that run in from the measuring point, so they've got about almost 5K to go.
And then it stops again, and they're back to 6 again. So it's Keter, sorry, it's Atnafu Kinde, but still Benson Kipruto not worried at all. Closing the gaps easily. He there in the black on the left with number 5.
So your money's on Benson Kipruto, is it?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the way he runs. He runs so relaxed, and of course it's not a high pace. I don't know if he has the wheels to turn it over, which I would expect with Atnafu Kinde, who probably can change those gears. But Benson Kipruto looks smooth.
Well, he was 7th in London last October on that horrible, wet, cold day in front of Buckingham Palace and around St James's Park. They negotiated many, many laps, but he ran 2:06 there.
Yeah, it was horrible.
And, winner of Toronto back in 2018. That's actually his only win from his 8 marathons so far. Could today be a doubling of that total. So that men's pack then onto the bridge for the penultimate time. And I don't know if there's going to be a bell rung as they head out on the final lap. Would be nice if there were, but it doesn't matter. But they psychologically, these fellas have got to be gathering themselves. We're down to 6 now in that pack, I think. Yeah, it was 9 for a long, long time. Now we're down to 6. And we're getting to the business end of this Battle of the Teams Prague Marathon of 2021.
And maybe we should mention Willie Kachanja still. He's in 10th at the moment in the men's race, and
that's great because he's dropped back 2 or 3 times.
And he's only 36 seconds back this group. So he's running a pretty decent race, and he probably is on personal best route.
Now Skupina Czech are the leading team, with Team Birel in 2nd place, and Volkswagen back up into 3rd, and actually closer to Team Birel than they are being with the gap back to, oh boy, look at that. Team Mattoni have just gone from 4th to 1st. So something very, very significant has happened to Team Mattoni. Whether or not one of their runners has suddenly got onto personal best schedule, perhaps one of their female runners, or what, I don't know. We'll try and figure that out for you. But in the meantime, Rionoripo producing the performance of the day, surely, with this solo second half surge. Probably, what, about half an hour ago now, so the last third of the race, perhaps. She attacked and pushed very hard and maintained the pressure on some very, very stubborn resistance from 3 of her competitors, and she has a big gap now and surely is heading for victory in the women's race.
Yeah, Team Mattoni has, of course, 2 men in the leading group.
But Skupina Czech has been in the top 2 all the time. Now they're back in 4th place.
Yeah, I have to see what happened there. Yeah, it's a bit hard because we think Bedatu Hirpa is still running. Yet here in the computer there's a DNF.
Now here's your man, Benson Kipruto at the front, wearing number 5 for Team Birel. He's only run half and full marathons, nothing else at Benson Kipruto. Never run a 10K, never done any track racing. But he ran his personal best for a half marathon in Letna Park here in the Restart, Prague Restart half marathon last September. And clearly knows the city, and he does look confident. You're right, Michel.
Well, he didn't see too much of the city, Tim, when we had the restart.
But look how he's bouncing. He's on his toes, and he looks so relaxed. You wouldn't think he's been running for 2 hours, because that's nearly 2 hours on the clock now, and he looks fabulous.
Maybe it felt like a long run.
Well, my notes say possible favourite, the man from Kapsabet. You're calling him your favourite.
You scribbled that in now, or you did that yesterday?
What? You can see I wrote that last night. Don't be nasty. I've just got so much written here, I can't get through to it. And when you say it, I go, right, I can't use that. Right, I can't use that.
We can have the same favourite, no problem.
Down to 6th though, and still looking good actually, is Team Volkswagen number 5, Dickson Chumba. Benson Kipruto, Dickson Chumba.
Keegan still there.
Yeah, second to left is Norbert Keegan, who did so much of the leading through the first half of the race and sharing drinks with competitors from other teams, competitors in the marathon on an individual basis. And you just get the impression as they now are on the final lap, they've gone through that timing point. I say they've gone through the final lap. Actually, when they go through the finish line, then they'll be on the final lap. But for timing purposes, we've been told to make sure we regard the start of each lap as those blue tents in the background where there is a timing mat. But actually now they're just a couple hundred yards, a couple hundred meters from the old city square, the old town square, and that is where their final lap will start. Maybe we'll put a clock on that final lap. 2 hours, 1.5 minutes on the clock.
Oh, this is the score after 11 laps.
And this is where they basically are adjacent to the finish line about now, 2:01:38. Let's make a note of that, see how long it takes them to get round this final 3-kilometer circuit. There they go, down to 6. It's almost a track race now, you feel. Some of them are looking so fresh. And they haven't really pushed hard over this last 30 or 40 minutes, which has was what you sort of want in marathon racing. You want to see them all out on this on the last half hour, but there's several of them up on their toes, and your pick, Benson Kipruto, looks really, really smooth still, doesn't he, in third place in the black?
Actually, a win for Kenneth Keter would be like a breakthrough. He's very fast in the half marathon, and the 2:07 in the half, more expected, but a win here would be big for him. It's not a fast time, but beating 2-3, 2-5 guys is also something you can put on your resume.
Well, he hasn't raced since Frankfurt in 2019. That was, what, about 18 months ago, more than that, when he was 7th in 2:09, Kenneth Keter. Now to the fore is Dickson Chumba once more.
Yeah, the old fox. He knows the tricks, winning marathons. He won World Marathon Majors.
He's one athlete who focuses very much on the marathon, 2 per year. He's only run 3 half marathons in the last 7 years, Dickson Chumba. He's a marathon lover. As Rionoripo continues her lonely lead to victory, surely. 2:03 on the clock for her. And you reckon, is she still on sub 220 schedule, Michel?
Well, at 32K she was. Haven't had any updates since.
Skupina Čes still, or rather back on top in that team race from Team Burrell. Team Mattoni in third. Volkswagen back in fourth. They're trying desperately to penetrate the top 3, the Volkswagen squad, but they keep getting shunted back down.
Yeah, she's still on 2:19 pace, although she's slowing down a little bit. And she'll have to work hard to get under 2:20.
Kenneth Keter is a bench runner, so he's reserved for Team Burrell, but in the individual marathon race, of course, he's still got everything to run for.
Well, he's not a bench runner anymore, according to my list, because we see Samuel Wanjiku dropped out.
Wanjiku's gone, yeah. Okay.
So Keter becomes very important for
Team Burrell, who are currently only in third place.
Passing their Aiyabei.
Kuteni shown getting past there as well by this men's pack. 2:20 runner from Dubai, 2020. And just beginning to struggle in this men's race is Lenchuan Bessa, wearing number 3 for the Team Mattoni. He's a 2:06 performer, and he's looks like he's labouring in the background there. So we're down to 5, or even 4. I think there's 2 of these men. No, we're down to 5. There are still 5 there.
Kuteni Shona overtook Aiyabei. She must be in second now in the women's race. She came from the back.
Kenneth Keter looking around with that long blue vest covering his shorts almost completely. Close attention being paid to him by Norbert Keegan in 5 there in the orange vest for the Team Volkswagen. In fact, it's not Dickson Chumba. And in 5 for Team Burrell is Benson Kipruto. Looks powerful, Benson Kipruto, doesn't he? He's a big lad.
Doesn't look like a marathoner.
No, I was going to say he almost looks like a boxer. He's really powerful in the shoulders and the neck. And we're down to 4.
With Keegan now struggling to hang on. Throws out the rope. Hopes to hang on. But Kipruto is putting the hammer down.
Over the Stefanikov bridge for the final time. We're on lap 13 of 13. They've got half a lap to run as they negotiate that corner. And your pick, Michel, indeed, Benson Kipruto begins to surge. Now they've got a little downhill section. Will he use this to build a gap? He had a little glance over his shoulder 10 seconds ago. Trying desperately to go with this third is Dickson Chumba. Team Burrell on top. Team Mattoni in second. Skupina Čes in third. Volkswagen still back in fourth, but now this is raw racing. And it is Benson Kipruto, who has done nothing but marathons and half marathons. He's a devoted road racer, nothing else. Could he be heading for another big performance here, having produced his half marathon personal best in here in Prague last year? That gap is 4 or 5, maybe 6 meters.
Yeah, it'd be some very fast last stretch through the shopping street.
Now that was telling. Dickson Chumba in the orange vest had a little glance over his shoulder. Does that mean he's thinking, I cannot go with this?
That's not a good sign.
No, exactly. Benson Kipruto, if he had seen that, he'd get great reinforcement from it. That gap is 10 meters. It was 5 or 6 meters 30 seconds ago, and he's gone, surely.
But with a kick, that's closable.
It's closable. Who's that in third place?
That's Keter. That's Keter. He's passing Chumba now, and then Kigen still eyeing the podium.
But Kipruto's 20 meters ahead. Little incline here, little climb up onto the bridge. Then the Chukov Bridge for the final time.
Final kilometer has started.
And there are markers apparently that say 700 to go, 500 to go, 300 to go. The Toronto Marathon winner of 2018, a man who is so consistent in one marathon after another, takes that left-hand turn, and look at the gap behind him. He really leant into that hill, worked on that final climb, and he's built a gap of about 30 meters now. And he has about 800 meters to run, probably less. And that is surely a winning margin. On to Parisky Street, Paris Avenue. This has been a wonderfully worked performance from this man, Benson Kipruto, 30 years old. 2:05 he ran in Toronto back in 2019. He was only 4th in that race. Gives you an idea of the caliber of some of these races on the circuit that are not even World Marathon major races, but Toronto is one of the really fast circuits on the North American marathon panorama. Michel, you picked well. You said about 40 minutes ago you thought he looked really smooth, and he really does.
He still looks. He's not even straining now.
Now, is he going to have a look over his shoulder to check what's going on? The 3 behind, surely now racing for second there.
I think that's the more exciting race. Although Keter is dropping back, it's going to second place will be between Chumba and
8 seconds the gap. And for Team Birel, it looks like there's going to be a victory in the individual race, at least, by Benson Kipruto.
Oh.
Team Birel's captain, RunCzech,
he's happy.
Is smiling. He's a 6-time Paralympic gold medalist in cycling. The charity Chester Zasnem helps build relations between healthy people and disabled people. But this, a brilliant run from this man who has worked it to perfection. Benson Kipruto wins the Battle of the Teams individual marathon of 2021. Superb from him. Stretched away over the final 2 kilometers. Second place there, Norbert Keegan, I think.
Dickson Chumba second, Norbert Keegan third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Close though. Very close.
Yeah, for the finish. Kenneth Keter fourth. Doing a good job for Birel. It was 2:10.13.
2:10.13
for the winning time.
Not as quick as some of us thought, but that doesn't matter because it was superb racing. Ooh. Number 5 coming in, Yitayal Atnafu.
He's hurt.
His time
just
almost exactly 2:11. Katerina Neumanova, former cross-country skier, 6 times an Olympic medalist. The Team Skupina Czech captain. Their charity, the Pink Bubble Foundation, supports teenagers and young adults with oncological diseases. Well, that was a fabulous finish and victory from Benson Kipruto.
2:10.15, the official time.
2:10.15.
2:10.25 for Chumba, Norbert Keegan, 2:10.26. Volkswagen.
This is Yitayal Atnafu, who was a 2:06 performer in Dubai last year. He comes through in just under 2:12.
Where's Willie?
Purity Rionoripo glancing around behind there to see if there's any threat. But I don't think there is. She built this victory long ago with a determined surge. There's a familiar face, Willie Kanjanya.
Yeah, he's doing good.
But outside the Olympic qualifying, which is what he wanted, misses it by almost exactly a minute.
I think he just misses his personal best as well.
Yeah,
no, he runs. No, he runs.
Maybe by 20 seconds or so.
Good. Extra points.
Oh, that's true. Good point. Yeah, very good point.
That's Team Birel doing good. Winning the race and a personal best in the men's.
And that's Abdi Ibrahim, who's a 2:08 performer, coming home in just inside 2:13, about 2:12.53, something in that sort of order. Running his fifth marathon here. Ibrahim hasn't raced since November 2018. I should think he's just delighted to get a race under his belt.
For the athletes that are finished at the moment, Team Birel is leading with 4,692 points. And Volkswagen,
keep updating us, Michel.
4,000. Volkswagen second, Skupina Czech third, and Mattoni fourth.
There's the Norwegian.
Oh, Abel Kipchumba is in pain. Still checking the clock, but for what? The legs must hurt. Yeah, the course can be demanding with those cobblestones.
Yeah. But his personal best is only a click inside 2:09, so 2:13, close to 2:14. Not a bad run in what was a slower race than many expected, but without pacemakers, that's often the case, and there's nothing wrong with that. You get good tactical racing, and when it comes to championships, when and if these men run in major championships, they have to know how to race, how to think on their feet.
Yeah, but that ability has disappeared from
on the track in many respects.
Yes.
Yeah. Rionoripo justifiably looking a little tired here as she heads north over the river for the final time. Working so hard with those arms, just the one arm sleeve.
She's losing the sub 220.
It's forgivable.
Yeah.
She did work really hard for that section. What, about 20 or 25 minutes in the middle of the race to break away. Well, she's a prolific half-marathon racer. She's won 7 of her 9. Paris victory in 2017, a Lisbon victory back in 2015, which was her debut. But otherwise, not many other victories at the marathon, and this will be a big win for her today. Abel Kipchumba, bench runner for Team Mattoni, comes home a weary 2:15.29, I think. He is more of a half-marathon specialist. His 59.29 personal best set back in 2018 in Valencia. And he's broken 60 minutes for the half-marathon 3 times. Still learning his trade, perhaps, at the marathon. Rionoripo.
Yes, she still has a comfortable lead on Kuteni Shone. She has 1 minute and 21 seconds lead at 38.8K, so that's like 2 kilometers ago.
Well, she was second in Prague in 2016 in 2:25 exactly. 5 years later, she's more the finished article of a marathon racer, and at the age of 27, Purity Rionoripo, absolutely in her prime. In a different race, with what she's displayed here today, Michel, she'd have run a long way under 2:20, I think.
Oh, yes, she's ready for way more than that. Although, okay, we have to say it's ideal conditions at the moment. But, yeah, of course, they lost maybe 1.5 minutes in the first half of the race. Yeah.
And with no crowds, nobody to race with through this last, what, 45 minutes? Having to make her own tempo. Once she'd broken the opposition, she's checked regularly. She does just there. And those behind her.
So she will bring important points for Volkswagen, who is, after we have the men's part finished, it's Team Birel leading with 4,692 points. Then Team Volkswagen with 4,541 points. Team Mattoni, 4,423 points. Team Skupina Czech is getting their fourth male scorer here.
Thomas Kiplagat.
And yeah, they're trailing.
Coming through for Team Skupina Czech in 2:17.37 unofficially. That's a tough day at the races for him. He's a 2:06 performer. Did that when he ran one Seoul back in 2019. Over the river for the final time then for Purity Rionoripo. Not really any need to be checking over her shoulder anymore. She's built a comfortable cushion of a lead. And the number.
Vít Pavlišta for Team Volkswagen. It could change something because they probably scored a bench runner now for Volkswagen, so the score will go down for
so he's winning the
Volkswagen.
Czech championships there,
Yes.
Vít Pavlišta. The time immaterial, he has that national title in his 10th marathon. He's a 2:15 performer, some 3 minutes or so outside that today. That doesn't matter. He will have known long ago that he was nowhere near getting the Olympic standard.
And this is the funny part. If he had dropped out, it would have been better for the team.
Oh! Don't tell him that.
No, he deserves the Czech
But
title,
you don't
of
want
course.
that sort of corrupting information in your mind, do you?
Yes.
You don't want somebody shouting at you halfway around your last lap, drop out, drop out.
Yeah.
This is Jiří Homalac, wearing number 1 for the Skupina Czech squad. It's been a tough run for him too. He's a 2:14 man. And he's been away training in Kenya as well at altitude in preparation for this. It hasn't gone right.
Rionoripo has 1 minute and 15 seconds to break 2:20, and she has to cover 400 meters. Yeah, but this was the split, so she has to run 75 seconds for the last 400 meters. And she's
well, if she's within about 100 meters of the finish line, she might make it. But Rionoripo pushing for the line. Some incentive for her to break 2:20, but it will be a personal best. Surely her personal best at the moment, 2:20.39. That was in December 2019. Here she is 18 months later, and she drives towards the line. It will be just outside 2:20, but it doesn't matter. This has been a marvelous victory, a wonderfully executed marathon race by Purity Rionoripo of Kenya. She wins the women's Prague Marathon of 2021. It is a personal best. Good points for Team Volkswagen, much needed points for Team Volkswagen as well. And a truly dominant performance ultimately from this Kenyan who won her debut back in 2015. Much quicker now, some 5 minutes faster.
Yeah, Team Volkswagen takes the lead because of this. Of course, they have their fourth scorer now. Well, it's the 5th scorer, but they will lose one of the men's scorer.
Now this is
Shona.
Rutiaga.
No, Shona. This is.
That's orange, isn't it?
No, that's red.
That's red.
That's
Excuse
Shona.
me.
That's Shona. No, she came from behind. She was running in 6th, 7th place at one point. Worked her way back to the 2nd place and running 2:21. Can she get into 2:22? Will not be a personal best. No bonus points for Team Birel, but Team Birel is in 2nd place. Need these points.
Well, that's a good performance from her. She's hurting too. Prolific half-marathon racer. In her 17th marathon, though, very experienced at the age of 29. She takes 2nd place. It's good. Does Guteni Shone of Ethiopia for Team Birel. Her time unofficially just inside 2:21.50.
And it's Aiyabei in 2nd, who's hurting as well. lost a lot of time.
All smiles, though, as she knows she's going to make the rostrum. She is a 2:19 performer from Frankfurt in 2019. And she, just like Guteni Shown, has run many, many marathons. This is her 20th marathon today. Very shy at the press conference a couple of days ago, but she saved her energy for this run this morning. And look at the time, it's another very, very quick time, 2:22:37 unofficially. Third place for her, and good points for Team Mattoni.
And this Eva Vrabcová, that on the computer she was a DNF, but she definitely finished, and in a good time as well, under 2:24:3. Not a personal best, but Team Skupina really, really needed the points.
And this gentleman from the Czech Championships,
he's number 3.
He's coming home in third place. And he was an early leader, and 2:23, a very, very respectable time as well. Indeed, he's run himself to a standstill, collapses over the line there. And Betty Lempus, well, she's not going to be far outside her personal best. It's just clicked by, I'm afraid. 2:23:40 from 2018 Shanghai was her best, remains her best. Her third marathon, by the way, after Enschede in 2017 and Heng Shui in 2017, was her personal best by 6 minutes. That was in Shanghai. Has won 2 of her 3 marathons. It remains now that she has won 2 of her 4 marathons, but a determined run and a surge to the finish brings her home in around 2:24:15. And it's that 5th place for Betty Lempus, I think. And Team Mattoni benefiting from that strong run. Or are they? She's a bench runner.
Yeah, but they will count her now. So that's why you can see those jumps. They will count the bench runners, and then if
as long as the runners up the course finish, then
if an assigned runner finishes,
yeah, she gets locked out.
The bench runner gets.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because she is a Team Mattoni runner, and she's finished, but her score will become obsolete by somebody finishing behind her.
Yes, but if somebody drops out still, then her score will count.
This is Tigist Abayachu. The packing here, the times in this women's race, really strong. 2:25 on the clock.
She will get her Olympic qualifier.
Oh, she will too. She's on is she on the bridge?
Yeah, she must be. She still runs strong.
Eva Vrabcová Nývltová does still look strong. And she and her family have been a delightful influence throughout the week. In fact, they're in the room next to me. And a couple of nights ago, the dog was barking right through the night. And I nearly went and banged on the door, and I'm glad I didn't, because she's obviously slept through it. Maybe she's used to it, and it has done her a power of good. Tigist Abayachu, in only her 4th marathon, ran her personal best, and she was 4th in Dubai last year. 2:22, well, she's a bit outside that, but that's still a fabulous run. 2:26:11 unofficially. And I think is that 6th place for her.
What a strong run. She will get the Olympic qualifier, and she can pack her bags for Sapporo.
She will indeed. European Championship bronze medalist, winner of the Czech title today, but far more importantly, as you say quite rightly, and cheered on by someone who will be a teammate, surely, come the Olympic Games in a few weeks' time in Tokyo. Eva Vrabcová Nývltová. Not smiling yet, but she will be very shortly. Look at the clock. 2:26:31 is her personal best. It's not going to be her personal best, But it is still going to be some 2.5 minutes inside the Olympic qualifying time by this mum, who will be greeted by her family. I don't know if Dog Bella is here in the square with her, but that is magical.
Yeah, beautiful. It's always beautiful to see people reach their goals and coming back after maternity leave and go straight to the Olympics. And Team Mattoni is doing well in the women's.
Yeah, she's a scorer for Team Mattoni, Vrabcová Nývltová, and they are on top at the moment from Birel, Volkswagen and Skupina Czech. Oh, you better replan your summer. I think Vrabcová Nývltová was 7th there. This 8th place for Aberu Mulisa, a bench runner for Team Skupina Czech. In fact, a scoring runner, I think, for Team Skupina Czech, because Rutiaga dropped out.
Yes.
Meseret Belete, still a long way under 2 hours 30. She's a 2:24 performer, and she will score as well. She was meant to be a bench runner.
And she stayed the longest with Rionoripo. She tried to hang on.
You're right, she's had a tough last 5K, hasn't she? 5 or 6K. And this could be, yes, an Olympic qualifying standard run.
No.
From Moira Stewartova, 2:29.30.
Yeah.
She's got a break and she comes towards the line, Stewartova. She missed the Olympic qualifying of 2 hours 29 minutes 30 seconds by 9 seconds in Bern on the 3rd of April. So what, some 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, she missed it by 9 seconds. And her team captain, Yitayal, cheers her on as he realizes that she's going to get inside the Olympic qualifying standard. What a day for Czech women's marathon running. Absolutely supreme. Eva Vrabcová Nývltová is the Czech champion.
Whoa.
The silver medalist in that will be Moira Stewartova.
3 seconds.
By 3 seconds inside the Olympic qualifying standard. Oh, her dad, her Scottish dad, Eddie Stewart, will be punching the air here in the city. Both her parents live here
And that's double
in the capital.
That's extra points for Team Birel as well.
Oh.
Yeah. They're going in the lead now.
Personal best by what? About 11 seconds. 11 precious seconds. And here is the form of the men's winner. And looking rather masterful over the final few kilometers was Benson Kipruto here in Prague. The battle of the teams race won by him. The individual marathon won by him. How will his team Birel, do overall? He won't care because he is the champion in Prague in 2021. Michel, your assessment of the day?
No, I think we saw great racing. We saw a great women's winning time. Battle of the teams, I think it has a future.
Absolutely.
It needs to be reviewed. Needs to see what to do. Of course, we're still waiting for athletes to finish, so we can't make the team standings up yet.
But we do know the champion,
And
Benson Kipruto, a very worthy winner.
And 2 Olympic
Benson,
qualifiers.
what are your feelings?
I'm very happy today.
What about the time? How are you satisfied?
What? Sorry?
What about the time? 2 hours, 10 minutes.
That time was okay because today was not about the time, but the winning and the teams. Yeah.
And how did you enjoy the team race?
It was very interesting because it was the first time introduced here. For the teams.
Thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, he said right. It wasn't about the times.
No,
it was about the performance against a really strong field. I mean, we mustn't forget that. He's beaten us at really fabulous quality.
So here we will have the third
lineup.
scorers for Team Skupina and Team Volkswagen, the third women scorers. Because I think Worknesh Mola will be a scorer for Team Volkswagen.
This is Lilia Iwade, a 2:23 performer from Japan, the 26-year-old. Made a debut at 19. That was a 2:27 run in Yokohama back in 2014. Well, it's been a tough run for her. Way outside the Olympic qualifying standard, 2:32 on the clock. But Lilia Iwade there coming to the line and refusing to give in, finishing with a little surge there. She's a prolific racer. She loves to race.
It will bring Volkswagen to the second place, but Team Birel looks like the winner here of the team battle.
Here is the finishing form of the women's champion, Purity Rionoripo. It was a wonderfully executed win, one that was founded on a big surge in the middle of the race. Punches the air there as she comes home with a winning time. Rionoripo
2:20.14.
2:20.14. So close to breaking 2:30. There it is, confirmation of that women's result. Rionoripo from Guteneshon and Valary Aiyabei. But the team race is what many are focusing upon, as so many athletes broke 2:30 here in Prague today.
Your victory. How did you enjoy the race? How did you enjoy the race? How was it?
The race was so good, although it was hard because of no pacemakers, but I thank God I managed it. Yes.
What about the wind? Was it a problem? Did you feel it?
Yeah, it was a very strong wind. Yes.
What about the battle of the teams? How do you like the idea of team event?
It is a good idea. Yes.
Thank you so much and congratulations.
We got the Czech champion, Vít Pavlišta. He had a good run, nowhere near the Olympic qualifier, but wasn't realistic to begin with. But he got a nice title. And with Team Volkswagen, he'll be on the podium, second place for his team.
It's the 7th time Vít Pavlišta has run the Prague Marathon. The first time he's run this particular course. There's the Czech Championship result for the men. Pavlišta winning in 2:18 from Homolach's 2:19. They were the only two under 2:20. Jan Kohut in 3rd place. Well, there's the square. The blue sky is beginning to break through once again. The rain has stayed away, and as we heard from Rionoripo just now, deceptive, of course, in these TV pictures. She says there was a bit of wind around, which underlines even further the caliber of her run in particular. Eva Vrabcová Nývltová taking the Czech title, but more importantly, nailing that Olympic qualifying time here very impressively this morning in Prague. And what a day it has been for the Czechs, with Moira Stuartova getting the Olympic qualifying time again, which was so frustratingly elusive just a few weeks ago when the weather was bad in a Swiss marathon and she missed the Olympic qualifying by 9 seconds. But Vrabcová Nývltová was 6th here in 2016. Her position today amongst the fabulous Africans, not important. She has that Olympic qualifying time for Tokyo. 26th in Rio, and all things being equal, she will be running in Tokyo.
And of course, a marathon needs a victory ceremony. Finishing a marathon in itself is an heroic act, especially when you do it that fast as the runners did today. Still runners on the course. Outside the Battle of the Teams, there were about 60 Czech runners running their national championships. Of course, also they, because of the pandemic, deprived of competition, deprived of their national championship. They could be nicely combined this time and do something for Czech athletics.
Výpomoc českých reprezentantů, o které se ještě určitě budeme mluvit v dalších dnech a možná v dalších týdnech. Zasloužený potlesk pro dalšího úspěšného účastníka mistrovství České republiky v maratonu. Už od roku 1998.
So we had Team Birel. They will be the winner of the Battle of the Teams with 7,152 points. And it was thanks to two personal bests in their team by Moira Stevartova and Willy Chanchanya. They personal best. They got a 10% score, and you can see the difference. Running a fast time for them individually made the difference, beating Team Volkswagen. And the athletes still coming in on the square, finishing there 42 kilometers. And hopefully next year Prague will have a full marathon again. I mean, full participation again with the mass participation run and 15 to 20,000 runners through the beautiful city, on not on a loop course, but on the normal course.
Nejenom individuální závod, ale 8 jednotlivých atletů, 4 muži, 4 ženy. Vidíme tady také kapitány, kteří byli pospolu a které jsme mohli vidět také v záběru kamer. Jakým způsobem sledovali vývoj jednotlivých týmů. Bylo to strašně moc vyrovnané a vyrovnané je to minimálně co se týká 2., 3. a 4. místa. I v tuto chvíli Birel, tedy zatím neoficiálně na první pozici 7,150.
Respectable times within 2 hours and 40 minutes here.
Dalším skvělým účastníkem 6,887.
You have to run less than 4 minutes per kilometer for 42 kilometers. That's respectable running.
2 hodiny 39 minut a 49 vteřin. Takový je aktuální čas od startu. Od 6. hodiny a 30. minuty. Na most běhalo se centrem Prahy. Běželo se hned 13krát i s tou náběhovou startovní rovinkou.
And here we have the winner, Jiří Děsek. He picked the right team. He got 2 personal best in his team, coached his team to good performances. And for him, a trophy. He'll get a big trophy, nice trophy, produced by the man next to him, which is a friend of Tim.
Leon, yes, we did met him and his delightful family. 5 children he's got, staying in the hotel, and yes, a very, very successful glass-making company he has got, which has produced the most astonishing trophy for the winning team in this inaugural edition of the Battle of the Teams. Well, I know there'll be many people, Michel, assessing this Battle of the Teams format and, you know, giving it points out of 10. I think overall it's done incredibly well. It's a really brave step, an innovation that has never been done before in a big city commercial marathon, to have teams like this.
And of course, it was the first time. It was all done in less than 2 months. There's a lot more that we can do with it, creating more content around the teams, picking the teams earlier, making maybe company teams.
Well, here we can see the team results, and the winning team, bottom right there, Team Birel, 7,152 points. You can see their scorers, led by Moira Stewartova with her personal best. Willy Kanchania also contributing to that team score. Second, top left, was Team Volkswagen. They spent most of the day down in 4th place, but they ended up in 2nd with Vít Pavlišta one of their scorers, and in third place, Team Mattoni, 6.845 to Skupina Czech's fourth place, 6.673. It was fascinating to see those team scores changing all the time.
Yeah, it's maybe one thing. It looked sometimes a bit erratic on how it changed, and yeah, it's maybe you could make it real time in the future if you have the right technology.
You have to what?
Make it real time if you follow them with GPS, and not because now we have the mats and you get these erratic jumps because some teams already had these people pass, and so it's you still have old scores and new score. I mean old splits and new splits that are combined, and you get these erratic jumps. But it's something that has to be looked into, and for sure. With advancing technology, more can be done. And Carlo has all these ideas of branded teams, company. Of course, we have companies now, but maybe countries, men against women teams, cities, fun runners adopting a team or become a member of a team, and you can even do fantasy. You can make your own team and see if you win the fantasy league.
Yeah, no,
so there's all these possibilities, and Carlos really hopes that it's going to be adopted by more marathons, and yeah, there is a future.
Athletes continuing to come through in the Czech Championship, still very, very respectable marathon times, 2:43 on the clock. And a great opportunity for these athletes as well as the elite, the super elite, to get out and have a race. A rarity now for well over a year.
Nemůže na tom onom zmiňovaném 35. možná 37. kilometru, kdy přichází ty nejtěžší momenty pro všechny atlety, takže bojují za jeden velký tým. Teď jdeme pro ty, kteří dnes byli vůbec nejúspěšnější, a začneme kategorii elitních mužů. Vyhlášení vítězů
wending his weary way towards the finish line.
2021, the category elite man is ready.
The elite of men's marathon running in the Czech Republic, not blessed with an Olympic qualifier today, but two on that Czech women's squad have booked their spots. And in fabulous style too, Eva Vrabcová Nývltová and Moira Stewartova. Well, time for the presentation of the first three
Dickson Chumba
in that men's race.
Volkswagen.
Dickson Chumba making sure he got second place, but the undisputed winner, Benson Kipyokei, his seventh place in the London Marathon last October, perhaps an indication of how tough he is, because it was a horrible, wet, windy, cold day on the streets of London when he still ran 2:06.42.
Responsible for schools, sport, education, sport, as well as the support of businesses, is handing over the medals to
and the trophies actually made of glass as well. I say the trophies, the medals.
1 second was the gap between the second and the third in the final standing of today's race. Poháry těm nejlepším předává ze svářské dílny, a je to Jakub Larsen, ředitel závodů Světové atletické federace. Crystal trophies from last week at the Glassworks are being handed over by Mr. Jakub Larsen, Director of Competition Sport Athletics.
Company that have made the glass trophies and the medals, and indeed those rather spectacular glass bowls being handed to the first three in the men's race.
Dámy a pánové, na počest vítěze zazní hymna. Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of the winner will be played.
Jakub Larsen of the European Athletics making the presentations there to the men. So it was a 1-2-3 for Kenya then in the men's marathon here in Prague in 2021. Benson Kipruto, the champion, 2:10.16. Dickson Chumba second, 2:10.26, exactly 10 seconds down and just 1 second further back in third place. Norbert Keegan, 2:10.27. Kenya 1-2-3, a very special day, and they got a winner in the women's race as well. For the Kenyans, unfortunately, of course, Michelle, there was not the opportunity to nudge themselves into the Kenyan Olympic team.
No, those chances were gone. And even I think the Kenyan Federation has become a bit more sensible in selecting the team early and not allowing all these last-minute changes. And they have quite a decent team, I think.
Well, they have the reigning Olympic champion, the figure of Eliud Kipchoge. I wonder who will be the Olympic champion in a few weeks' time. I was going to say in Tokyo, but of course it's not Sapporo.
It's Sapporo, yeah.
Was it 800 kilometers north, isn't it? A little bit
colder. Small flight, short flight.
It's the temperature they moved it there for, though, isn't it?
Yeah, there was. It's well, it's always a discussion around an Olympic marathon, or the temperature.
Well, except I went to the World Championships in 1991 in Tokyo, and it was unbelievably humid. I mean, just impossibly humid for marathon.
Yeah.
Although they did, of course, in the championship.
Well, it's Sapporo is better, but it's not like ideal marathon weather because it's 800 kilometers up north.
It's still the summer. I mean, it's one of the great ironies, isn't it? That marathons tend to be run in perfect weather, if possible, in the spring and autumn marathon seasons, and then, of course, the championships are run in the sweltering heat of a summer.
But actually, Doha was quite okay. They ran it in the middle of the night, Doha World Championships.
When you say okay,
it was a nice race.
That's a qualified okay.
It was a nice race.
How many women dropped out? 40, 41?
Yeah, the men did it better.
90,
but I think they were warned. No, actually the conditions at the men's race was much better. The race walk, that was the worst. The first endurance event, the race walk, it was terrible. And of course they're longer on the course as well with the 50K.
Yeah. Presentation for the ladies though now. And the first three saw two Kenyans sandwiching an Ethiopian in second place. Third place in the time of 2:22.39, Valary Aiyabei persevered. Aiyabei. Ethiopia getting onto the rostrum through the figure of Guteni Shone, 2:21.46. Really high caliber times in the women's race, considering there were no pacemakers. But a really brave run for victory it was for Kenya's Purity Rionoripo, 2:20.14. In many people's eyes, this will be considered the performance of the day.
No, it is.
Medals and flowers are being handed over by Mr. Vít Pavlišta, member of the City Council of the capital city of Prague.
And in that women's race, by the way, the top 9 going under 2:30, including two Czechs, Vrabcová Nývltová in 6th and Moira Stewart-over in 9th.
Just 2 seconds official time under the Olympic qualifying.
Yes. Moira Stewart-over unofficially 2 seconds under 2:29.30 in 9th place.
I give Jacob a job. Jacob Larsen from the World Athletics is handing over the trophies. A lot of restructuring going on in World Athletics, and Jacob started less than a year ago.
Oh, less than a year ago. But yeah, he's a really great forward thinker. He won enormous respect for the wonderful organisation of the Czech Federation for the World Cross Country.
Danish.
Huh?
Danish Federation.
Danish, what did I say?
Czech.
Oh my word, I've got Czech on mind. My apologies.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best three ladies of the final standing individual category.
So the second time in a few minutes we hear that Kenyan national anthem ring around the old city square here in Prague. Better get used to it, because I think in Tokyo we'll hear it a few times as well. The wind, funnily enough, has picked up significantly, hasn't it? Look, for the first time today, visually, you can get a clear impression that there's quite a bit of wind, and it's darkening. The skies of over Prague is certainly making the scene considerably more grey, and I rather feel there might be some rain in the air, which would be not much different to most of the last few days, but that doesn't matter because the racing is done, and done in spectacular fashion, and a huge pat on the back for the RunCzech team for what they've achieved here today. I know that they have jumped through many hoops, both politically and in other respects, to get this race off the ground and to hold its course against some opposition in recent months. But the city have been wonderful supporters. The Czech government have been wonderful supporters of the concept of trying to get some more normality back to the life of the streets of the Czech capital, and they have achieved that in spectacular fashion. A ray of hope then being held out for the future, Michel. Today we hope it all keeps going in the right direction, in the same direction.
Yeah, we need to do something to get going again.
Well, they got going this morning on the streets of Prague in glorious sunshine for this 2021 edition of the city's marathon. It was an elite race only. The Czech Championships had around 60 competitors. That culminated in 2 Czech ladies making the Olympic team for Tokyo with their fabulous runs this morning. And the elite athletes in the battle of the teams put on a great show. The winning team was in doubt all the time, and the lead changing throughout the race. But Team Burrell it was who eventually came out on top. Team Volkswagen in second, Team Mattoni in third, Team Skupina Czech in 4th place. Any final thought from you, Michel, as to the way this may project us into the year of marathon running from now on?
Yeah, let's hope that this has a future and can be adopted by more marathons, and hope soon we have more marathons in a row and we do this every weekend, Tim.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Well, from Michel Boating and myself, Tim Hutchings, we'll wrap for now. It has been a fabulous morning's racing, a real treat after such a long winter of marathon running, thanks to the pandemic. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you again very soon, somewhere on the athletic circuit, hopefully very, very soon. Bye-bye.
36 sekund svým osobním maximem. Vynikající představení Evy Vrabcové Nývltové, pro kterou to budou další pořadí, pokud jde o letní 2. olympijské hry, pokud jde o celkové množství her, tak celkem 5., protože už 3 hry má za sebou v té zimní variantě, jakožto běžkyně na lyžích. Nejlépe skončila na 5. místě v Soči v roce 2014. Ale z běžeckého světa na lyžích se přesunula do běžeckého světa v běžeckých botách, a nejenom, že jí to jde skvěle, ale hlavně je skvělá. A teď nemyslím co do času primárně, ale co do toho, jaká je. Teď pokud jste ústupní vítězů, tak možná slyšíte ten dřev. Já tam nevidím, za kým Eva šla, ale doufám, že to odhadnou. Tam bude ten rodinný tým Vrabcových Nývltových, kteří fandili a hnali Evu do cílové lajny. Podle toho, jak si znám, tak tenhle tým prostě drží pohromadě. Manžel, trenér, manažerka Adélka, která už je 13 měsíců, je to velká taky běhací holka. A z toho samozřejmě, a tohle bude ještě korbely, doufám si odhadnout. Když tam nevidím, tak myslím, že tohle bude štěkající královna toho psího světa distančního běhu České republice, protože právě ona patří rozhodně do týmu Evy Vrabcové Nývltové. Prostě neodmyslitelně bílá, hodně chlupatá venka, která je na všech tiskových konferencích, u všech vyhlášeních, a dítě prostě chybět nemůže. Když si říkám, jestli nedostane speciální akreditaci na závod, protože by si ji bezesporu zasloužila.